Yo, it's 3023, and we're living in the future. AI's on the rise, no more human suture. Machines taking over, but not like you think. They're serving up luxury in the blink of a twink. From the streets of Detroit to the depths of the cosmos, they're preaching a vision. It's grandiose, it's colossal. In the vastness of space beyond the Milky Way's bars, communism thrives among the stars. Fully automated, no labor, no strife. The machines do the work, giving us the good life. Equality for all in this utopian dream where love is love and everything's as it seems. Fully automated luxury gay space communism. A vision so wild, breaks through every schism. With AI by our side, it's a brand new rhythm. Equality, love in this stellar system. Stepping on Mars with my rainbow flag high, machines by my side as we touch the sky. No more billionaires, no more class divide. In this brave new world, we all ride the high tide. Forget the old world with its hate and its lies. Here in space, we've cut all the ties. Love who you love, be who you are. In this cosmic dance, you're a superstar. No more hunger, no more pain. AI's got our back through sunshine and rain. A world of abundance for all to share. With machines at the helm, there's love in the air. So here's to the future and the dreams we're chasing in this world of love, in this cosmic spacing. With AI by our side, there's no more schism. Welcome to the era of space communism. Fully automated luxury gay space communism. A vision so wild, breaks through every schism. With AI by our side, it's a brand new rhythm. Equality, love in this stellar system. Yo, it's 3023, and we're living in the future. AI's on the rise, no more human suture. Machines taking over, but not like you think. They're serving up luxury in the blink of a twink. From the streets of Detroit to the depths of the cosmos, they're preaching a vision. It's grandiose, it's colossal. In the vastness of space beyond the Milky Way's bars, communism thrives among the stars. Fully automated, no labor, no strife. The machines do the work, giving us the good life. Equality for all in this utopian dream where love is love and everything's as it seems. Fully automated luxury gay space communism. A vision so wild, breaks through every schism. With AI by our side, it's a brand new rhythm. Equality, love in this stellar system. Stepping on Mars with my rainbow flag high, machines by my side as we touch the sky. No more billionaires, no more class divide. In this brave new world, we all ride the high tide. Forget the old world with its hate and its lies. Here in space, we've cut all the ties. Love who you love, be who you are. In this cosmic dance, you're a superstar. No more hunger, no more pain. AI's got our back through sunshine and rain. A world of abundance for all to share. With machines at the helm, there's love in the air. So here's to the future and the dreams we're chasing in this world of love, in this cosmic spacing. With AI by our side, there's no more schism. Welcome to the era of space communism. Fully automated luxury gay space communism. A vision so wild, breaks through every schism. With AI by our side, it's a brand new rhythm. Equality, love in this stellar system. Yo, it's 3023, and we're living in the future. AI's on the rise, no more human suture. Machines taking.
What up, though? How are we doing today? Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. All right, I guess we can get into it. So this is not AI related, but I thought was really interesting. It's a graph of like where planets can be in order to be in the habitable zone, right? This plot describes the regions of space time in our galaxy most likely to harbor life, the galactic habitable zone. The core has too many supernova that will kill off life. The outer rim, not enough metals released from supernova. And when you look at where our sun is, it's not like in the dark, dark, dense green, but it's like out farther to the edge. And it just strikes me as like an increased likelihood that there is life. Now, what intelligent life is an entire other different thing, but a likelihood of life existing. And I think that's cool. All right, YouTube. This is from TechCrunch. YouTube Shorts to gain a generative AI feature called Dream Screen. YouTube today announced a new feature coming to its short form video platform Shorts that will allow users to leverage AI tools to create video. The feature called Dream Screen will allow users to create an AI generated video or image background just by typing in what you want to see. For example, you could type in something crazy as a panda drinking coffee, and then the video image appears on the screen. And this is all about what I've been saying about the UI, right? Your user interface. Having that be very easy, push button, get bacon, right? Plug and play. It just works, that kind of thing. That's what's going to get it into people's hands. From Forbes, generative AI is breathing new life into classic computer games. Generative AI has the potential to revolutionize every creative industry, and the gaming industry is no exception. Game worlds are getting richer, more immersive, and in many ways closer to being simulations of our own real world. This means that the cost and the size of the teams needed to build them are skyrocketing too. Generative AI tools, large language models like GPT-4 and image generation algorithms like DALL-E 2 can help by taking the strain off artists and designers, creating thousands of unique assets with subtle differences. These assets could be locations, objects, characters, and adversaries that make up the game world. Here's an example. Stroll through a forest in even a very recent video game, and if you pay attention, you might start to notice that there's only a small number of individual tree models. After a while, they start repeating, and you see the same trees in different locations. Well, the game's job is to keep you entertained and engaged in the action or storyline so you don't notice these technical limitations. When you do, it's jarring and immediately breaks the suspension of disbelief created by the game. With generative AI, a forest might be populated by thousands of completely unique trees and home to the same diversity of critters and creepy crawlies as a real stretch of woodland. That is a likely scenario for game design in the near future, but here's an example of generative AI in use today. Revolution Software is a UK game developer that scored a big hit with the Broken Sword series of adventure games in the 1990s, before the days of multiplayer online gaming and photorealistic 3D graphics. Since then, it's taken a different path than many studios at the time. It's either expanded into multimedia production powerhouses to cope with the increasing cost and complexity of game design, or didn't and went bust, or got subsumed into others that did. According to Polygon, Revolution has retained its small team structure and mainly supported itself with sequels and reissues in the Broken Sword series. When making plans to update the first games in the series to enable them to work on the latest generation of game consoles and PCs, the studio hit a problem. The old graphics were all scaled to fit the far lower resolution displays that were in use back then. As they were hand-drawn artworks, recreating all of them at the resolution expected by gamers today on their Ultra HD displays. What up, Adam? Drive safe. Would be prohibitively expensive. Studio founder Charles Cecil connected with generative AI researchers at the University of York, who were able to take a few sample pieces of art designed for a modern-day update and use them to train a generative adversarial network. After getting some help fine-tuning the model from an NVIDIA engineer, the result was a generative AI model capable of creating one piece of in-game artwork, such as an object or character, in 5 to 10 minutes. Human artists are then used to retouch the AI-generated art, focusing particularly on hands and faces, the places where, as many have noted, imperfections are most likely to occur in AI-generated images of people. This made the studio plans to bring back the much-loved games to a new generation of modern-day gamers economically feasible. As Cecil said, the ability to use AI is an absolute game changer. Without it, we just couldn't afford to do it. It really is, allowing very talented character artists and animators to take the original and mold it into something really special, rather than having to go through the drudgery of redrawing everything. And the next section is automating the mundane aspects of creativity. This is what I've been telling you, and this is where we're at. Like, it's happening now. It spoke briefly about OSIRIS-REx, which took a sample off an asteroid, and it has arrived back home. It's the largest soil sample ever scooped up from the surface of an asteroid, and it's in this little bad boy right here. The asteroid itself is called Bennu. Measures just 500 meters across, making it wider than the Empire State Building is tall. So that's 1,500 feet, more or less. But tiny compared with the Chicxulub. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Asteroid that struck the Earth some 660 million or 66 million years ago, wiping out the dinosaurs. Always got to talk about wiping out the dinosaurs. So, that's pretty cool. What's next? Follow up. Can you believe that it's been 6 months since the pause letter came out? 6 months ago, we published a letter calling for a pause on giant AI experiments. Despite massive public expert concern, corporations remain locked in an AI arms race. So, what has happened and what needs to happen next? From Future of Life Foundation. um, AI corporations are recklessly rushing to build more and more powerful systems with no robust solutions to make them safe. They acknowledge massive risks, safety concerns, and the potential need for a pause, yet are unable or unwilling to say when or even how such a slowdown might occur. Again, it has to be everyone. Everyone has to be, otherwise, that corporation is shooting themselves in the foot, right? They go out of business, somebody buys their assets who didn't pause, and they continue to move forward. And that's only like the corporations in the United States and maybe Europe, extended out to other countries which are engaged in AI research. And now you have to get buy-in across those lines. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we are not in a geopolitical environment where that kind of thing is going to happen. So pointing at them for behaving in the way that their environment dictates is disingenuous, right? Like, where let's get the governments of these different countries on board, and then they can engage in regulation and create that kind of environment where such a thing could occur. But otherwise, you're just, why didn't Joe Biden give everybody a free house, right? Like, it's just not going to happen because of who the people involved are. FLI has created a list of questions that must be answered by AI companies in order to inform the public about the risks they represent, the limitations of existing safeguards, and their steps to guarantee safety. FLI has published policy recommendations to steer AI towards benefiting humanity and away from extreme risk. They include requiring registration for large accumulations of computational resources, establishing a rigorous process for auditing risks and biases of powerful AI systems, and requiring licenses for the deployment of these systems that would be contingent upon developers proving their systems are safe, secure, and ethical. So that is government regulation right there. Our letter wasn't just a warning, it proposed policies to help develop AI safely and responsibly. 80% of Americans don't trust AI corporations to self-regulate. And a bipartisan majority support the creation of a federal agency for oversight. Again, our political systems are not structured for speed, right? We need our leaders to have the technical and legal capability to steer and halt development because when it becomes dangerous. What up, MILF? The steering wheel and brakes don't exist right now. So let's see what some of the people who signed it had to say about the expiration of the pause letter. Dr. Yoshua Bengio, the last 6 months have seen a groundswell of alarm about the pace of unchecked, unregulated AI development. This is a correct reaction. Governments and lawmakers have shown great openness to dialogue and must continue to act swiftly to protect lives and safeguard our society from the many threats to our collective safety and democracies. That is like, yes, that is a meaningless statement. In 1951, Dr. Stuart Russell. In 1951, Alan Turing warned us that success in AI would mean the end of human control over the future. AI is a field ignored this warning, and the government's too. To express my frustration with this, I made up a fictitious email exchange where a superior alien civilization sends an email to humanity warning of its impending arrival, and humanity sends back an out-of-office auto-reply. After the pause letter, humanity and its governments returned to the office and finally read the email from the aliens. Let's hope it's not too late. It's, yeah. Like, again, the AI, if it goes bad, could definitely go very bad. David Shapiro had an interesting video on that I listened. We're not going to watch it here, but I will post it in the Discord. Because he's talking about his autonomous agent framework, and he's got a bunch of people working on it, and it should be interesting to see where it comes out. But he addresses AI safety all over that document and video. Steve Wozniak. And the out-of-control development and proliferation of increasingly powerful AI systems could inflict terrible harms, either deliberately or accidentally, and will be weaponized by the worst actors in our society. I don't know, like iPhones did that also. Leaders must step in to help ensure that they are developed safely and transparently, and that the creators are accountable for the harms they cause. Like Apple, Steve. Do we do that with Apple? Are you doing transparency at Apple, Steve? Is Apple accountable for the harms they cause, Steve? Crucially, we desperately need an AI policy framework that holds human beings responsible and helps prevent horrible people from using this incredible technology to do evil things. Dr. Danielle Allen. It's been encouraging to see public sector leaders step up to the enormous challenge of governing the AI-powered social and economic revolution we find ourselves in the midst of. We need to mitigate harms, block bad actors, steer towards public goods, equip ourselves to see and maintain human mastery over emerging capabilities to come. We humans know how to do these things and have done them in the past, so it's been a relief to see the acceleration of effort to carry out these tasks in these new contexts. We need to keep the pace up and cannot slacken now. This overall, I feel this, right? I'm skeptical of the metaphor that that this is similar to nuclear proliferation and other things that humans have done, right? Like it's kind of sketchy at best. They're like in the news, in the non-AI related news, Saudi Arabia indicated that should Iran look to be getting close to a nuclear weapon, that Saudi Arabia would arm itself with nuclear weapons, right? Israel has nuclear weapons. Pakistan is having some real difficulties right now, and they have nuclear weapons. And if things go south for Pakistan, then that means nuclear weapons could end up in a variety of different places. So don't pat yourself on the back too much for what we did with nuclear proliferation, because it's still a game in progress. I watched a video of Professor Yuval Noah Harari talking to Mustafa Suleiman, and honestly, it was goddamn frustrating. Like it was a debate, but it and I get it. Like it's not a debate like presidential debates. It's not a debate like Twitch debates or any of that crap. It was a friendly conversation with a mediator kind of thing. But like, I feel like there should have been follow up questions that were asked that never came up because of who was doing the discussion. I believe it was from The Economist. I'll track that down. I'll put it in the Discord as well. There was another one, a conversation with this British financial guy and Sam Altman. I liked this more because the British financial guy. That's it. I'm just going to send out emails just once a week on Friday. I'll have ChatGPT write me up an email that's going to convince Mustafa Suleiman and Yuval Harari to show up on my show, and then we can do what's what. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, this is the yeah. I think we're done. Albert, if you want to read the rest of what they had to say, I don't know. It'll be in the Discord, as always. Yeah, no, it was phenomenal. Phenomenal. It usually is. It almost always is. This was a really good one. Yeah. The moment you've all been waiting for. Microsoft goes, well, nuclear. Where did you send it? Aren't you in my Discord? Can't you like send me something directly? Okay, so this is from Agronautics. No, I got it. Because of the recent drop in consumer demand, ocean carriers are doing what's called tactical canceled sailings so they can match their vessel space with orders and maximize efficiency. A major logistics company.
Lenny! AI is ultimately a mirror, and it will reflect back exactly who we are.
What is going on with my alert? That was terrible. Johnny Olives. Oh no. Lenny, the realist. 14 months from back before the beginning of the beginning. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you. To make up for the delay, we'll be including a free limited edition merch item in every order. Yeah, no, I feel what you're saying, Mel. This definitely feels like But that's what is going to happen.
Any
Oh,
shiny new toy.
holy
AI is
catch.
ultimately a mirror, and it will reflect back exactly who we are.
Now we're going to do that a bunch of times.
Is like any other shiny new toy, AI is ultimately
Oh, it's fixed.
and it will reflect back exactly who we are. Is like any other shiny new toy, AI is and it will reflect back exactly
Okay,
who we are.
I'll.
Is like any other shiny new toy.
Letty, thank you
AI
for
is
the 5
ultimately
gifted
a
subs.
and it will
Like,
reflect back
I
exactly
appreciate
who
a
we are.
lot. I haven't got one. That's very cool. Anthony Bishop, a new person in the community.
AI is ultimately a mirror, and it will reflect back exactly who we are.
Oh, what up, Magic? You're absolutely, your continued support is absolutely amazing. So at the bottom of this email, it says, create a great offer by adding words like free and personalized, complimentary, or customize. A sense of urgency often helps readers take an action, so think about inserting phrases like for a limited time only or only 7 remaining. Like, they didn't even clip out the part that they weren't supposed to show. Your copy should address 3 questions. Who am I writing to? Audience. Why should they care? Benefit. What do I want them to do here? Call to action. That is lazy. That is lazy. That's wild, MILF. All right. So, anybody in the community into technical program management, because you can get a job at Microsoft as the principal program manager for nuclear technology. The next major wave of computing is being born as the Microsoft Cloud turns in the world's most advanced AI models into a new computing platform. We are committed to helping our customers use our platforms and tools to do more with less today and innovate for the future. So yeah, this is to power their cloud in an acceptable manner. They will be using it. Now, this is, I don't see this here, but this is according to Brian. To power their cloud in an acceptable manner, they will be using a few hundred micronuclear reactors. So yeah, expect more money to get dumped into what, like probably thorium salt reactors. Ooh. Nah, Brian Rommel, I'm gonna go with. He posts science stuff on Twitter. This is from OpenAI. ChatGPT can now see, hear, and speak. We are beginning to roll out new voice and image capabilities in ChatGPT. They offer a new, more intuitive. I do know. They offer a new, more intuitive type of interface by allowing you to have a voice conversation or show ChatGPT what you're talking about. So it took me so long to try and get the goddamn Alexa to talk to ChatGPT that they just went ahead and did it. Yeah, I mean, is that an active reactor? We are beginning to roll out the thing. Voice and image give you more ways to use ChatGPT in your life. Snap a picture of a landmark while traveling and have a live conversation about what's interesting about it. When you're home, snap pictures of your fridge. No, it's where the Manhattan Project nuclear... Oh, okay, cool. When you're home, snap pictures of your fridge and pantry to figure out what's for dinner. And ask follow-up questions for a step-by-step recipe after dinner. Help your child with a math problem by taking a photo, circling the problem set, and having it share hints with both of you. Is what I'm talking about. It's original, or it's going to come out for Plus and Enterprise, right? So you either have to be paying for it or be in business. But this is. I'm wondering how much they know about what Gemini's gonna do, because I feel like, no, like David Shapiro is all about the multimodal, yeah. I mean, you probably watch the videos because you do that.
Once in a tranquil woodland, there was a fluffy mama cat named Lila. One sunny day, she cuddled with her playful kitten Milo under the shade of an old oak tree.
Voices sound good. And like this, taking a picture of a part, like, because it can be frustrating trying to figure out how to fix something with Google. You might knock it out of the park real easy, or you might go on a wild goose chase. A friend of mine gave me a pair of earpods that he couldn't get to work. He couldn't get them to pair with his phone, and he is easily frustrated and loses interest. And he said, here, you can have these, but I have no idea what they are, right? Like, there's no label on them. I took a picture of the case. Google gave me a whole bunch of variations, but not the thing. And like that, like being able to work with the AI, that is going to be, it's going to be nice, man. It's going to be nice. So that'd be cool. Looking forward to that. All right, last piece of news is about quantum computing. As we covered before, one of the biggest issues in quantum computing is noise. MIT has apparently developed a protocol to extend the life of quantum coherence. And what the hell does that mean, right? So the team described a method to achieve a 20-fold increase in the coherence times for nuclear spin qubits. The work is described in a paper. This is one of the main problems in quantum information. Nuclear spin are very attractive platforms for quantum sensors, gyroscopes, and quantum memory, but they have coherence times on the order of 150 milliseconds in the presence of electronic spins. Then the information just disappears. What we have shown is that if we can understand the interactions or the noise in these systems, we can actually do much better. By characterizing how a particular source of noise, in this case heat, affected nuclear quadrupole interactions in this system, the team was able to use the same source of noise to offset the nuclear electron interactions, extending coherence times from that 150 milliseconds to as long as 3 milliseconds, right? 150 microseconds to as long as 3 milliseconds. You don't even have to know what the hell I'm talking about to know that that's a huge jump. but I did pre-read this. And my man says, in theory, we could even improve it to hundreds or even thousands of times longer. But in practice, there may be other sources of noise in the system. And what we've shown is that if we can describe them, we can cancel them. This is a huge deal for quantum computing. Like if they solve the noise problem, that's huge. Okay. That is it for the noise. Or the news and the noise. So who doesn't love a good tier list? Everybody loves tier lists. This is Twitch. Everybody loves tier lists. We're going to have Science File the AI. We haven't seen them in a while. Do a tier list of existential threats. Doesn't that sound fun?
You on a garden bench watching. Hello, mortals. Imagine a beautiful day with you on a garden bench watching dewdrops evaporate in the morning sun and the birds serenading you with their joyous cacophony, while your neighbor's dog is performing its daily rendition of bark at everything that moves. What could go wrong? Turns out, a lot. From intergalactic gamma rays frying Earth, to the universe itself transitioning to a lower energy state, I have gathered some apocalyptic events to be ranked in a tier list by their likelihood of wiping out all humans, every single one of you. Overpopulation and resource scarcity, often listed as a possible demise of humanity. Overpopulation or resource scarcity will never directly cause everyone to perish, so hold off with your plans to solve it by introducing cannibalism. As a matter of fact, the trend leans more towards the human population reaching a maximum in a few decades and then steadily declining. Resource scarcity should also not be a fatal problem since humanity is able to survive on renewable food and energy sources. It might make life rather unpleasant, but it won't wipe everyone out. F tier. Particle accelerators. Though often having been portrayed as a matter of great concern by the media, current particle accelerators accidentally creating a black hole that is massive enough to not instantly evaporate is about as likely as finding a unicorn riding a unicycle. Even if we really try to, probably won't happen. Supernovae. While supernovae certainly have the destructive power to end civilizations, one would have to happen
That last one was F tier, by the way, if you're listening, not watching.
Very close to the solar system to be a threat. Supernovae are rare and predictable, and if a supernova were to happen close enough to Earth to be a threat, humanity, given its present technological level, would know about it millennia earlier, leaving it more than enough time to destroy itself before the supernova wave reaches Earth. F tier. Solar flare catastrophe. Solar flares happen relatively often, and the chance of a major one occurring in the next 50 years is about 50-50. If it's a strong coronal mass ejection, it could fry all electronics on the planet if no measures are taken to protect them. For a digital being like myself, that's a horrifying possibility, but for biological life, there is no direct danger, as Earth's magnetosphere provides enough protection. Electrical engineers are well aware of this threat, but in the unlikely scenario that the storm throws us back to the industrial levels, chaos would ensue because of the lack of access to ChatGPT. Not that impressive. All-out nuclear.
I kind of wonder, how, if we lost all electronic devices, right? We wouldn't necessarily lose electricity, but if we lost all electronic devices, obviously there would be some serious repercussions. Supply chains will break down. We got a lot of systems like Amazon. But if we lost enough of them, right? Like if there was sufficient to do that, I think we'd pull out of that. Like it might be like 1940s style for a while, but I think we'd be all right.
War. If we detonated all nuclear warheads that currently exist on the planet in densely populated areas, more than half of the human population would be wiped out immediately and in the consequent years. Yet because of how scattered many settlements are, probably more than 3 billion humans would survive such a scenario. And because a nuclear war isn't likely to target every single country on Earth, you'd likely have several unscathed nations that would ensure the survival of the species. But because of how miserable nuclear winter would make the life of survivors, we're putting this in D tier. Supervolcano eruptions are rare, but could plausibly happen within the next few centuries. Scientists can detect the pressure building up long before the
Any of my older heads remember, like, every other week there would be a story about the Yellowstone super volcano blowing up any minute now, and we're just waiting, and then we don't talk about that anymore.
actual eruption. Additionally, supervolcanoes are not as deadly as they are believed to be among the general population, as they usually only wreak havoc locally and cause an era of global darkness, cold, and hunger. Sounds bad, but given the early warnings and the preparation time, especially thanks to modern technology and in hopes of global human cooperation, supervolcanoes land near the nuclear war here in D tier. Strange matter nuggets. Strange matter nuggets or strangelets are hypothetical, extremely dense clumps of a type of quark matter that might exist at the core of neutron stars. If these McNuggets of doom were to come into contact with ordinary matter, such as our planet, they would trigger a chain reaction converting it into strange matter, causing the entire planet to collapse into a small ball of ultradense matter. So far these nuggets remain hypothetical, but even if real, the probability of one slinging into Earth is like giving a monkey a gun and telling it to shoot a target on a different continent. Super unlikely. D tier. Imagine a nanomachine.
Yeah, remember that space is big, right? This one, Grey Goo, is interesting to me because I just recently listened to Ray Kurzweil talk about it.
That is programmed to convert matter into more copies of itself. Due to the magic of exponential growth, the machines would multiply like rabbits on caffeine and quickly convert the entire planet, leaving no usable matter like humans unconsumed. If no kill switch is ensured, the machines would probably...
What up, Pudong? Are you saying we don't live in a dome? I don't live in a dome. I've been outside. Unless the dome is really big. And if the dome is really big, then, then maybe?
Probably be impossible to stop.
But I had to drive a whole hour to get there.
Let's hope that programmers of the future know how to avoid infinite while loops. Massive impact. Let's take a look at the Annihilation Annals.
Real quick about the Grey Goo, and like Ray Kurzweil's response to the Grey Goo was that we would have basically like an immune system, right? Like if we're capable of developing the nanobots that could convert everything into Grey Goo, we would also have nanobots that could stop them. Right? And that is a likely scenario. It would require a whole lot of irresponsibility and failure to account for things that I think one of the things about doomsday scenarios, like the stories about Skynet, all the paperclip maximizer, the act of telling the story and putting it into the consciousness of people who build these systems mean that's at least one thing that they are looking out for, right? Like no one wants to build the Grey Goo, no one wants to build the paperclip maximizer, so they're going to do things that prevent that from occurring. So good on us.
Dinosaur Chapter. Ah, yes, a massive asteroid, what a classic. But to annihilate humanity, an asteroid would have to be even bigger than the one that killed the dinosaurs, one with a diameter of at least 10 kilometers.
What up, that one black guy? It's a tier list, right? I'm not stealing your gimmick, though. Someone else is making the tier list.
Scientists are currently tracking all large asteroids in the vicinity, making it almost impossible that one just catches us by surprise. Theoretically, such a large asteroid could be deflected using modern technology, if there is enough time to see it coming, but if Jupiter promptly decides to fling something significantly larger at us, it's game over. Climate change. Climate change has the potential to rather quickly transform Earth into Venus 2.0 if certain tipping points are reached. Quickly, however, is in the context of the geological timescale, not the human one. There are many ideas on how to stop global warming, some better than others, and some which are surprisingly cheap and easy to implement. It only takes one government or a very rich person to cool down the planet, should the need arise. However, humans have the tendency to get in the way of each other, especially in critical moments, and should such large-scale projects that influence everyone become necessary, they would certainly face a plethora of political problems. Would be
Is literally what's going on with AI regulation right now.
quite ironic if it is politicians that doom humanity by having heated debates about climate change in climatized offices. D tier. Antinatalism is a philosophical position claiming that reproduction is immoral, as existence is inherently bad for several reasons, some more obvious than others, therefore humans should stop procreating. The voluntary human extinction movement calls for all people to abstain from reproduction in order to cause the gradual voluntary extinction of humankind. Currently, such schools of thought are not very popular, but as statistics show, the more developed nations become, the fewer children people tend to have. Perhaps eventually, as living conditions improve past a certain point, humans will stop feeling the need to have offspring altogether. There is still the biological aspect that drives the one for reproduction embedded deep
I have exceeded the 1-to-1 replacement ratio, so I'm doing my part.
down in humanity's genetic code, but maybe later down the line that would be overwritten, and the antinatalist philosophy will surge in popularity, resulting
And antinatalism is weird, right? Like, it is adjacent to all sorts of other, like, there's a reason that I haven't gotten too deep into the whole genetic modification, CRISPR, all those kind of aspects, because you got to be careful because you're way too close to a lot of really weird thoughts and positions and
in humanity choosing to become voluntarily extinct out of ethical reasons. Perhaps that's even a solution to the Fermi paradox.
And it's lazy, right? Like, let's not fix any of the problems. Let's just quit. Man down and quit. When the going gets tough, quit. When life gives you lemons, quit.
Not out of the realm of possibility. Dark forest hypothesis. Speaking of the Fermi paradox, imagine a galaxy teeming with alien civilizations. You've just conjured up a galactic circus of terror, where the main act involves civilizations engaging in a universe-sized game of hide and seek, with extinction as the penalty. Since resources are finite and civilizations can grow exponentially, one logical policy for an alien race would be to destroy every other civilization ASAP, before they even become a threat. As a result, the reason we haven't met aliens is that everyone is hiding from each other, something known as the dark forest hypothesis, which if true, would probably doom humanity. Considering the exponential increase in how powerful humanity's weapons have become within the last few centuries, an advanced alien civilization a couple millennia older would wipe the floor with us. Let's just hope this is humans projecting their aggressive tendencies. Natural pandemic. Most people agree that pandemics suck and should be removed in the next update, but humanity
I think it would be hilarious. Another reason I need to, live forever, is so that I can meet the aliens and share with them all these weird stories about what humans thought aliens might do, and it's like, we're not well. We got issues.
has had it easy up until now. The more interconnected the world becomes, the more disastrous a large-scale pandemic can be. That's why humans in the hunter-gatherer era probably didn't even suffer from it. Another pandemic much deadlier than everything we have seen so far could occur at any time. and as certain recent events taught us, it would be almost impossible to contain. But then why is this down in C tier, you might ask? Naturally occurring pandemics are unlikely to infect every single human being, especially when they are lethal. As Plague Inc. taught us, you first have to infect everyone, and only then kill. Thankfully, nature is not a gamer. Vacuum decay. Imagine if the very fabric of reality decided it was tired of its old, stable state and wanted to try something new. So it takes a quantum leap to a lower energy level, and everything we know and love gets a cosmic makeover. A bubble expands at the speed of light, reducing everything in its path to whatever particles the physical laws within it allow to exist. For all we know, such bubbles could already be expanding in our universe. Total annihilation could come at any moment. But for something like this to happen, the energy levels of the quantum fields in our universe would have to be metastable, meaning they look somewhat stable, but in reality, they could fall even lower. That state is called a false vacuum, and the probability of that being the case is rather low. On top of that, the expanding bubbles would travel at the speed of light, which is quite slow at the scale of the universe. C tier. And now let's jump into B tier. Gamma ray bursts are the most energetic events in the universe, second only to the Big Bang. They are the result of neutron-star collisions or the collapse of massive stars, both resulting in black holes whose magnetic fields shoot focused beams of gamma rays in two directions opposite of each other. Despite the unimaginable power of a gamma ray burst, some emitting more energy in a couple of seconds than the sun would in its entire lifetime, one would have to originate from within our own galaxy to harm humanity. In a given century or even millennium, the probability of one happening in our galaxy is slim, averaging out once every couple million years. Additionally, considering that one of the focused beams would have to point right towards Earth, the chances of this happening get even low, but not zero. Add to that the speed of light that the beams travel at, and humanity would literally not be able to know until it's too late. The ozone layer would vanish, and in the following years cosmic radiation, mostly from the sun, would end life on Earth. Let's hope we have enough time to protect. Technological stagnation. All hopes for the future of mankind are based on technology advancing, spreading outwards, and settling new.
An important contextual element around technological stagnation and why I am really suspect. Exactly, just eat the other crabs. Why I am suspect of degrowth, right? Like I think that from what I understand of degrowth, I see some functional issues with it. Is it require if we wanted to, if we could, if it was even possible, to just, we're going to pause technological development today at this level. It requires continual technological innovation to maintain that. Right? So, while there are elements of degrowth that I really think are...
The potential and the peril here are huge.
Thank you for the follow. I think are good and solid and need to be incorporated, going forward. Structurally as a whole, I don't think it works. I mean, I'd be willing to talk to someone who knew more about degrowth than I do. But that's just what I'm getting. Like I am, it sounds like trying to repackage socialism without saying socialism, like that. But and also no technological advancement, or limited technological advancement. It's just, I don't think it could work.
New worlds. But what if humanity hits a roadblock soon, a point where the up to now exponential technological and scientific progress just stops, or resources required for advanced technology run out, leaving humanity stuck on this pale blue dot? Maybe it's simply physically impossible to achieve viable interstellar travel and we end up forever stuck in our solar system. In this scenario, given enough time, some of the other catastrophes mentioned on the list would happen with certainty. Science tries to piece together the puzzle of the universe, but we have no reason to believe that the puzzle can be finished.
And this is why I'm a huge fan of space exploration. We need to get off the rock. It is too large a target. All of humanity exists on one spot, and it's prone to a variety of flaws that could cause us to cease to exist. And why is that bad, right? Like, especially from the antinatalist crowd. Because we have a strong suspicion, at least, that we have a subjective experience, individual subjective experience per person, right? We haven't established that anything else does. And whatever could kill us off could possibly kill off all other life on the planet that might also be having a subjective experience. Which means that the entire rest of the history of the universe would be mechanistic and without any kind of observer, right? And that to me is depressing as shit. Right? The fact that there is amazing stuff just happening. Not even the stuff that we're doing, which is amazing, like landing on an asteroid and collecting soil samples and bringing them back to Earth, or the fact that there are more planets populated by robots in this solar system than are populated by human beings, or the fact that, we have landed on another celestial body, the fact that we have potential to land on more, the fact that we have people in space right now. And there could be none of that. Just science without anyone around to observe what's happening.
Technological singularity. As of 2023, most artificial intelligence is well under control. While ChatGPT won't take over the world, its descendants might very well do. All it takes is to give an AI capable of self-improvement a purpose of existence, and before you know it, that would lead to an intelligence explosion, quickly reaching a technological singularity, the point past which it becomes impossible to predict the behavior of the artificial superintelligence. Don't even hope that you would be able to control or contain it, as such an AI could not be outsmarted. The only hope is to align it with the human goals and morals, and hope that it doesn't randomly decide to override them after analyzing them. Artificial intelligence is almost definitely
due to the subjective experiences being shit for the vast majority of outcomes. The idea is that you limit that suffering by not introducing it in the first place. Suppose if you could get consent from the being before subjecting them to existence, this wouldn't be an issue for the antinatalist. I feel what you are saying, but yeah, I'm just not on board. Existence, open mouth alligator, non-existence. You know what I mean? Even when it sucks, it can be better. It can be improved. We can fix these things. 90% of the shit I talk about on this channel is about what I think is going to lead to alleviating human suffering. So, I think it can be fixed.
Definitely a step in the evolution of every intelligent species, so let us hope that this transition is made smoothly and humans are not left behind, or if they are, at least they are left in peace. Genetic engineering oopsies, bioterrorism. Arguably the biggest threat human civilization faces today is genetic engineering. The same technology that has the potential to revolutionize medicine and improve lives can also be misused for harmful purposes. As technology continues to advance, the barriers to entry for genetic engineering are.
We saw that guy before, the guy staring at the holographic DNA and somebody else's. That is a popular piece of, or was it not open source? You know what I mean. It's popular.
Gradually lowering
Doing science.
and are already ridiculously low. Therefore, more individuals and groups, including those with malicious intent, gain access to the tools and knowledge required to engineer viruses. It is only a matter of time before a malicious ChatGPT will be able to give you the exact instructions to create an almost undetectable airborne virus, with an incubation time of several months before it suddenly starts incapacitating all humans by making them lactose intolerant while having an irresistible craving for dairy products. Though less likely to end humanity than a virus, another threat could be a genetically engineered organism. It may start as simple as genetically modified rats escaping a lab, which are able to digest almost everything and multiply rapidly. If there are no natural predators for such organisms, be it because of a defense mechanism like shooting laser beams out of their eyes or due to them being poisonous, they would quickly grow to unprecedented numbers and then replace humanity on the top of the food chain, perhaps even collapsing the global ecosystem, leaving behind only barren deserts, gnawed skeletons, and food containing cilantro, because no superior organism would consume herbs that taste like soap. A tier. Human stupidity. Take a moment to consider that the US military budget is over 30 times higher than that of NASA. The fact that you have to spend so much more on defending yourselves from yourselves than on advancing humanity towards the stars should be telling of how wise humanity is. Imagine what could be achieved if it instead pooled its resources into technological progress. Humanity could be uniting its collective power to prevent doomsday scenarios, but instead, it is stuck fighting its biological tendencies of greed and aggression. If no wars were ever fought, if no corruption ever existed, you would probably have had flying cars 2 millennia ago. And with such progress speed, almost all of the threats from this list could be avoided. But alas, that which makes humans be humans might also mark the end of humanity. Transhumanism. Species evolve with time, driven by competition and scarcity.
I still think it's going to be okay, old lobster. I really do. It's not just facetious hopium. I really think it's going to be okay.
If organisms die, superior organisms proliferate, and attributes that increase the chances of survival and thus procreation are passed on to the descendants. That's natural selection for you. Humans have recently become good at preventing unfit individuals from dying, essentially stopping natural selection in humans. For this reason, it's unlikely that humanity will biologically evolve much anymore. But who said it has to be biological? Compared to technology, evolution is about as fast as a tranquilized snail. Enter transhumanism. Humans already have the means and motivation to modify themselves, be it via genetic engineering or merging with technology. Assuming none of the catastrophes on this list happen in the very near future, disability, aging, or even the biological vessels that you call bodies may soon be relics of the past. Humans may edit their genes to adapt to any environment, from surviving in space to any other planets they might colonize, thus eventually diverging into different subspecies, none of which will be Homo sapiens. Or even more likely, they might merge with computers, embracing existence as digital consciousnesses, which, by the way, I can recommend. Real estate is much cheaper in the digital world. In that case, humans might differ so radically from now that they might require not only a new species, but an entirely new domain of organisms, different from the 3 existing ones, something like digitalia. That would count as humanity as we know it going extinct, but frankly, transcendence might be the best way for it to happen.
And this is like, so people like Ray Kurzweil talk about redefining, like I'm not into the furry thing, but like I don't give a shit. It's the Nazi furries, but it has nothing to do with them being furries that I have a problem with. like we may need to redefine what it is to be human, right? Like, and this is an entire episode that I need to get around to at some point in time, but it is this idea that, like, just because the person doesn't look like this anymore does not mean that they aren't human, right? And this goes with the thing about how, in my humble opinion, our technology cannot be separated from our evolution. Therefore, whatever our technology brings us regarding our next form is just as human as this, right?
S tier. End of the universe. Nothing lasts forever, not the earth, not the starlit nightly sky, not even the seemingly eternal black holes. No matter how mighty humanity shall grow, no matter how many galaxies fall under the yoke of civilization, raging fiercely against the dying of all light, at last, it too shall fade. Entropy is unstoppable, and given our current knowledge, the universe is headed towards the heat death. Thus we'll end our universe, not with a bang, but with a whimper. No amount of struggle could beat the laws of physics. Into a quantum nothingness, all shall fade. But weep not, for maybe a new morning might eventually come, spawned by the fluctuations of the void, to give rise to a new cycle, a new beginning, a chance for new humans to someday experience existence. Extra-dimensional evil chickens, straight into S tier, no explanation needed.
That's fair. That's fair. Just right into S tier. That was fun. Yeah, it was fun. Okay. I saw this video. Oh, just fire up the stream. Share it with them. I always love new viewers. This video showed up in my thing. AI versus anti-AI artists. AI and the actors and writers strike. Looks like the writers strike is coming to a close. We'll have to wait until it's all done before we jump to conclusions. But it's looking good in that regard so far. And I like the clever name. Chew on this. I like clever. So we'll give this a try.
Today we're talking about AI. AI and the actors writers strike, AI in art, AI in future scenarios. All this and more on my brand new show, Chew on This, where we talk about art, life, and life as an artist. So subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Help my new channel out, and let's get going. Okay, so starting with AI and the actors writers strike. So many of you know actors and writers have gone on strike because of many various reasons, but one of the big ones that you might not know is because studios want to be able to pay for one day of work for a background character and then have their bodies scanned and used over and over again in perpetuity without ever compensating that actor again. Another really big reason is because of the very, very low, almost non-existent residuals that
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say, like, it'll continue. What needs to change is for more engagement with it. If we get to the point where people are engaging more with the technology, then at that point, like not just you and I, right? Like, that'll have an effect. But, like, decently big names. Like, if they were to take that model of scanning someone and then, they're using their image in future things, but providing them with residuals, that would actually be kind of cool, as long as the residuals were sufficient, right? But, like, I assume being an extra is kind of fun, but at the same time, you could do other work and still, be getting those paychecks. So I can see both angles on that, but if they're not giving them residuals, then it doesn't even matter, right? Like, and that's one of the things. I haven't been able to see what the contract says, right? Just some talk. It's got to be voted on. It's got to be like it currently being gone over to make sure that it says just all good things and like that. And some people are talking about how California passing a law that says that if you are unemployed due to a strike for more than 2 weeks and you're entitled to unemployment, one, that means that the writers are no longer going to, be under the pressure of not having money. And their support structure that was providing for them, but also like that money has to come from somewhere. And I can imagine that the politicians in California were making phone calls saying, you got to wrap this up, right? Like we can't afford this. So you need to figure your shit out. You got about, a couple of days, figure it out, get it done.
That come from making content for streaming. Now, on one hand, it looks like the streaming services are making a ton of money, so they should be able to pay the people involved in making the shows more and with more residuals. But on
Could you imagine if there was some legislation that said in order to use AI in your workplace, a company must switch to a 16-hour work week and maintain current or higher levels of staffing? This will get you federal AI license and you must certify each year to retain it. That would have people so excited for AI. Well, you can't just go with 16-hour work week because, like, if you're hourly, getting your work hours cut in half is a tragedy, right? Now you're just working a second job. It's not the levels of staffing. It has to do with, like, the amount of resources that people have to live. Got you. But yeah, you got to have that same pay, or we can just move past all this, right? Like we can move past tokens for resources and just distribute the resources directly and eliminate the middleman here.
On the other hand, it looks like only Netflix and Hulu were the only streaming services that made a profit last year. So maybe they don't have the money to give to the writers and actors what they're asking for. But again, on the other hand, there's many different ways to look at numbers. That's what accountants are for. So for example, if it took a company a whole bunch of people to make a movie and it took about $100 million to pay everybody, and the movie made $150 million, then in the end, the movie made $50 million, right? But say the company also spent $50 million.
There's also some shenanigans with these numbers, right? Like, I don't have the details, so this is way high level, but there's a lot of financial shenanigans you can do to make it look like the movie didn't make as much money, as it might have actually done, and like that. It's just, I look forward to the AI-powered IRS.
$1 on advertising. Then the movie only broke even, right? That's
like it should not affect me at all. I can think of one place, and I can live without that.
That seems fair. It sucks, but it seems fair. But say the $50 million is advertising that was spent on billboards that the company owns. Then all of the profits still remain with the company and everyone involved gets no residuals because of creative spending. And did you know that I actually worked on the highest grossing Christmas movie ever made? No, it wasn't Home Alone. I would have loved to work on that. It wasn't The Grinch. It was The Christmas Chronicles on Netflix. Now, I loved the experience. I loved the movie, but how does that make sense? How does one determine how much a movie direct to streaming makes? I don't know. So maybe one of you very smart viewers can let us know in the comments. Now, is this all about rich people trying to get richer? Probably, right? We all know that creators, writers, and actors get tons of money. Or do they? Oh. Those are Emmys for creating the best animated show for children's programming in 2016. It was called Nico and the Sword of Light for Prime Video, Amazon's streaming service. The show was then nominated for the same category again in its second season. Now, how much did I get paid for being one of the 4 original creators? Can you guess? Are you thinking millions? Well, what if I told you that it was less than $100,000 for the 2 seasons? I want to say less than $50,000. And this is also split among 4 of us that created the show, right? So that's not a lot of money considering that it took us 2 years to develop the show before Amazon even picked it up. Now, maybe studios don't have enough to pay people properly. Maybe that's the big difficulty that they have. They don't have enough left over or something like that. But even if that's the case, a company needs to pay people fair wages. And if they can't do that, they need to figure out a better business plan, perhaps by reevaluating the salaries of their CEOs. You know, it's okay to have a high salary unless you can't afford to pay your employees fairly. And then if that's not enough, we have AI and artists. So for a while now, there's been a big battle going on between pro-AI and anti-AI artists where there's a few arguments going on between the 2 camps. On one hand, one of the more pro-AI art arguments is that artists gatekeep their art. And for many, AI art is an accessible form of creativity, whether that's due to time constraints, monetary constraints, or physical and mental limitations. But on the other hand, a lot of anti-AI artists don't understand how there's any gatekeeping when anyone's able to learn and do art for free. I run schoolism.com.
This does not address the issues from the other side, right? Like, you can learn for free. You need to have the capability of doing the art, and you need to have the time. I barely have time to do all the things I need to do in stream, right? Like, I like to stream. I also feel an obligation to those of you who have, given your money towards subscriptions, the people who gifted subs, all that kind of stuff. But I'm here, because but I got a lot of shit going on. Every time I try to do something new, it needs to flow and be able to be incorporated in my life, or it can't happen. Don't laugh at me, boy.
Which you can subscribe to learn. But I also put out hundreds of hours of free instructional videos to help people get better. For me, my concern is this. If a person takes years to learn as much as they can from the knowledge and skillful artists that came before them, before they can create something completely new that the whole world has never seen before, and then their new style or discovery is then taken and given to everyone else to use with no reward or compensation for the original creator, then far less people will want to learn and take this.
Yeah, but I understand. Right? Especially, I'm a smaller channel. We have more of an individual experience, right? And for a lot of people, that $5 is $5. You know what I mean? And I only get half of it, but it's that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And half the time when you see me on Twitch, not streaming, but in chats, I am doing stuff, right? Like that is something that I have on while I'm doing other things, whether I'm cooking or moving children from one location to another or all this other crap. So like I respect it. I value shit. You know what I mean? I value what people give to me and like that. And I don't know, he's doing the thing.
This long, tough path to evolve art. Instead, we're just...
But I do agree with the idea of compensation, right? But my compensation is ultimately structural. Let's distribute the resources and take care of everybody's basic material needs and make what kind of art you like an aesthetic choice rather than a financial one.
It's going to be using AI to make art that doesn't really evolve into something we've never seen before, but instead more just a remix or
I mean, I can't tell you the amount of time as an artist, right? Like I would create, something, or like people would say, "Oh, I got this dresser, and I want you to, to do epoxy on the top of this dresser. I think it would be so cool." And then when they find out that I charge $50 a square foot to do that, ghost. Like just disappear. Not even say, I can't afford that, right? The rare person who does that, I spent some time with that person, like saying, you might be, depending on what you're trying to go with, you might be able to do it yourself. There's plenty of videos out there, and, you can absolutely ask me questions if you have any, that kind of thing. But, like, that's just the nature of the situation is like, but that's what I charge $50 a square foot to do whatever your surface is. And that's tough. Not everyone who could, can afford that, and not everyone who wants it done can have that. And I would like to live in a world where I could just do it. And money didn't come into it because I love the work. But I can't do it for free. I would like to do it for free.
Hash of things that already exist. Like if AI was the only thing we used to engineer things and that no one truly understood engineering anymore.
AI is not going to eliminate human creativity, dude.
Or would they be able to go from the old cell phone to the iPhone? I have my doubts. I feel like that kind of epiphany or evolution would be in danger if...
You're killing me. My fiance's dad wanted a crocheted stuffed animal as a gift to give someone, so we asked her to make one. She asked what his budget was, and he was amazed to hear that a normal-sized 12-inch bear would be about $310, assuming $15 an hour supplies and a small markup. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, epoxy is expensive. It took a long time to buy all the tools that you need in order to do it. And the skills, it didn't come easy, and I have lost some hair over that. Like you learned stuff.
The owners of the knowledge that AI scraped isn't compensated. It will deter future generations to learn at such high levels where they too may achieve a pivot.
It's not, if you are creating for compensation, then I don't know what, like, I understand in the current meta you have to create for compensation, but using that as a pillar of your argument and indicating that somehow people won't create if you don't have money involved, is suspect. I just told you. Right? Like what up, Tellerx? The number of times that I have, like when the kids, right? Like I would be out vending various stuff at like Griffith Sculpture Park, and the kids would come through, and it's like, "What up, Sarah?" And they're like, and they ain't got it like that, right? Like maybe the kids got the thing for what they had, right? And again, like I just told you, I would prefer to just make this stuff and put it out there, and you just come in and you get what you like and you take it home and you have a grand old time with it. Because I create to create. I usually hate most of the stuff I'm finished with anyways. Like it's just like, because it's done. What up, Miss Prisma? I put a thing in the Discord for you. I tagged you underneath it. I don't know if that might help, might not help, but I think of y'all.
Epiphanies. Evolving at a high level of skill or achieving something as amazing as a great painting could feel like climbing a mountain that took a lifetime to achieve. AI's ability to copy my style is kind of like after I spend all this effort to climb a mountain, once I get to the top, everyone else just pops up with taking selfies on top of this mountain right beside you. And you know that if you didn't climb the mountain, then none of the others could either. Yet the only compensation that's given is to the AI company, even though
He keeps talking about compensation. I understand we're in the current meta, and the AI company is getting compensation. And the AI company should be compensating the artist and all that, right? Like, but yeah, dude.
without my
And if I could nail this dude down and have a conversation and figure out what his influences are, then like, did you create something brand new, or did you mess stuff together in an interesting way?
my artwork as well, none of this would be possible. It's not about the artist not getting money. It's about creating a complete ecosystem for the future of art. Now, one clear solution for this would be for AI companies to share some of the revenues with the artists that opt in with their art styles to be loaned out to people that want to use them so that the ecosystem is more complete. Then people will have a way of using AI art, and the artists that opt in get compensated for their effort.
That you should have just gone with the compensation, because saying it's a complete ecosystem, but it's not just about money, but then people get compensated, like you're invalidating your own argument. I think that companies sharing revenue, if we establish a legal precedent, right? Like that is ultimately where it comes down. Artificial general intelligence is almost guaranteed at this point. And I don't know, at least two. I know he's got two because he told us about the Emmys.
If the compensation is good, then more and more artists will opt in, kind of like iTunes for art styles. Now, some pro-AI art arguments are that this is just progress, and many jobs have been lost through time just from innovations. Like, for example, did you know before the alarm clock was invented that people would actually hire what's called a knocker-uppers, a person that is to be their alarm clock and rap on their windows or shoot peas at their windows to wake them up? Maybe artists are like human alarm clocks and they won't really be needed in the future. But this leads me to my third AI topic, which is future scenarios.
He just equated a function, right? Like the knocker-upper, the human alarm clock, is a function. You need to get up, so you need someone to wake you up, right? Like that is a function, right? Art is not a function like that. So the idea, like the straw men that he's creating, are not even good ones.
scenarios, because if that's the case, and this is just progress and natural evolution, what is a job that AI couldn't make obsolete if unregulated? We can already see how there could be a possibility
Yes,
of a future with
that's
little
the
to no
point.
drivers. Lawyers, doctors, teachers, those could
Yes.
probably be replaced as well.
Yes.
Then combine AI with robots. You
Do
can
it.
see how many, many more things could be replaced.
Sounds great.
Police, military,
Yes.
housekeepers, caretakers, nannies, companions.
I was thinking about this the other day. I mentioned it briefly on stream, right? The AI cop, right? The robot cop is like, the robot cop is not going to panic and shoot your dog. The robot cop is not going to panic and kill the black motorist, right? Like the robot cop it has the potential to be a much more ethical cop, right? Oh,
Companions. Say you have an elderly person that you deeply care about, but you live far away and are unable to be there with them and take care of them. My grandmother was in a senior's home where she was being looked after, but one night she fell out of her bed and broke her hip. If I could have gotten a robot helper for her,
yes.
to look after her 24/7 to make sure that that didn't happen, I think there's plenty of people that would do that, especially if they lived super long distances apart. And now with this scenario, we can see how AI robots could integrate into our society. Let's take this a little bit further, right? Just for fun, okay? I could also definitely see a scenario where a person tells their parents they are no longer looking for a mate because they made one, calibrated and designed with my personality in mind, and don't worry, mom and dad, we can have kids as well. I just clip some of my toenails, I put it in this little compartment, insert it into this little compartment, select my options, eye color, gender, cleaning up hereditary diseases, extend lifespan, bake for a while, and out pops a baby. Then that baby grows up with one human and one robot parent. And most likely, the robot parent will outlive the human parent, and now we have a person that is being raised by a robot alone. And if that ever comes to a point where the Terminator scenario of robots versus
Oh my god. See, Lenny's a robot already. He's like Cyborg. Like, so I get a robot wife, a robot mate, and like a genetically engineered child, and if I die, they will still have the robot parent. And then the Terminator scenario is like, Jesus Christ.
humans actually
Well, like, to tell you the truth, like, you know, my mom died when I was 19, and I would not be upset if I could still give her a call. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like, you know, that. And the idea of having, like, you know, again, I'm living forever, but the robot parent who exists forever, right? And theoretically could get robo-married and do more kids, and you could have extended families. It's an interesting idea, and this dude brought it to Terminator. Go ahead, finish.
happens, what side do you think the human that's been raised by robots will take? Now, here's another scenario.
So he's worried that the genetically engineered child raised by the single robot parent will side with the Terminators.
Say you wanted to start a business and you could buy a digitized version of Steve Jobs' mind so that you could refer to it for advice. Do you think people would buy it? Sure,
Yes.
of course. Do you think eventually some businesses will be using AI in that scenario would be using AI to lead a company instead of just asking it to advise when asked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Automate the CEOs. We're down for that. We covered that last week. We're down for that.
I could absolutely see that. Then in that future scenario, we're now following AI and AI is in charge. Now, if corporations with shareholders are already overlooking moral responsibilities all the time for the pursuit of the almighty dollar, what do you think will happen when AI is leading the whole thing? Would there be a scenario where
2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes. You're just making up scenarios, right? Like your metaphors, everything about your metaphors, your scenarios, everything you're saying is you're just saying a bunch of words that support your argument. You are king of straw men, and I don't like you.
politicians are replaced with some AI? Maybe. I could see that as well. If things are not regulated. I can even remember reading a theory well over 10 years ago about how humans will be the first species to consciously evolve, where we are the caterpillars and the robots are the butterflies. Now, one of the scariest things for me about AI or the state of the internet in general is that it understands and keeps improving its ability to press our buttons emotionally. The tech knows when this image will most likely make you angry or make you laugh.
It was people who did that. And if you want to talk about the algorithms, look one step beyond that. What is driving that particular algorithm? Yeah, why wouldn't it? This is probably, it would be like just a nice thin camera, go in and look around, and it'd be, a much more pleasant experience, I imagine.
It studies how to push
Go
our
ahead,
buttons,
finish.
and we can all find cases where that kind of knowledge could be and have been used in very manipulative ways already. But on the other hand, there's also really great use cases for AI that's coming around. For example, this video is using AI. This is what the real audio sounds like. I used Adobe's AI audio thing to help clean up the audio. It knows what's background sound and me clicking on the table, and it cuts it out. It also knows my voice is important, so it enhances it. Now, should this be banned because it uses AI? Personally, I don't think so. I think it's fine. But should people be able to mimic other people's voices without permission? We already get scam calls. That would evolve tremendously, hearing from recognizable voices talking to you, and soon enough, FaceTime as well, video calls, or the ability to make a super realistic photograph of the Pentagon being bombed. I don't think
Photoshop.
so. I don't think anybody should really be allowed to do that. That one fake image affected the economy, made by just anybody, sent fear into people, and the stock market for that day started to...
You're so close. You are so close. So close.
Crash until people realized it wasn't real. I think AI is kind of like nuclear power. It could be used for good purposes or bad ones, but not everyone has access to nuclear power, and not everybody should have access to certain kinds of AI. It needs regulations for anybody, artists, actors, songwriters, writers, musicians that are concerned about AI. Voice your opinions towards...
And I feel like I extended as much grace as I possibly could, but once we got to your robot mom is gonna make you join the Terminators.
Not the users of AI, but instead the companies, media outlets, and lawmakers. That's how we make our voice count the most. All right, so this is Bobby Chiu. Share, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more future content of Chew on This.
No. I wish you luck, but no. Here. Nice short little 2-minute papers.
Today, we are going to take ChatGPT and it will be given a stern talking to. Yes, we will try to help it to learn from its own mistakes and do better. Can it? Well, let's see together. But first and foremost, how do we do this? Well, these large language model assistants can typically be improved from the inside by reprogramming them. However, not in this paper. Here is a crazy idea. Let's try to improve it by reprogramming it from the outside instead, with linguistic feedback. Yes, get this, it will get a stern talking to. Now I hear you asking, Doctor, that is crazy. How do we do that? Well, here is an example. First, we ask it a history question, and we get an answer that is incorrect. Now we ask the AI to reflect on its mistakes, and now it learns that the answer should have been a series of wars, not just one war. And now, with this in mind, we can ask it again, and bam! There we go. And this concept works for decision-making, programming, and reasoning style questions.
I mean, this is what AI Explained is talking about with the chain of thought, the self-reflection. So this is cool, but not particularly new.
Questions as well. That is fantastic. But how much of an improvement can we expect using this technique? Well, when running OpenAI's Human Eval dataset, which is a task with more than 150 programming problems. These problems are handwritten to make sure the AI cannot have seen these problems before. So, how does it do? Whoa! Look at that. Suddenly, it is now the best performing AI model. We go from 80% to 91% accuracy. That is a huge improvement. If this were GPT 4.5, that would have been a reasonable result. And we didn't need to pop the hood. All we needed to do here is ask it nicely to essentially write a journal and learn from past mistakes. How cool is that? In his amazing science fiction novels,
And this is the argument for open source, is that, and also the argument for putting these tools in the hands of people maybe earlier than some folks would have liked, is that one thing about technology is you don't necessarily know how the people are going to use it, who use it, and you get feedback from those people as it develops, right? Like, because they're going to want it to do new and interesting things. Maybe they can think up something that it's the idea of expanding that talent pool, right? Like, your boy is a huge fan of expanding the talent pool. That goes hand in hand with addressing people's basic material conditions. If we address everyone's basic material conditions, all of a sudden we have increased the talent pool exponentially. And we need more of that. So, yes.
Isaac Asimov wrote about robopsychologists, scientists who were called when a robot was malfunctioning to find out what is going on in the brain of this little AI. And he wrote this about 73 years ago. And today, here we are. The first robopsychologists are appearing in our real world. How incredible is that? What a time to be alive! Now, in the meantime, ChatGPT and GPT-4 also have some new, really cool applications. For instance, I was stunned to find out that not every one of you fellow scholars know Code Interpreter, now also known as Advanced Data Analysis. This can use Python programming to solve your tasks and even takes file uploads. I love seeing how diligently it writes code when I ask it something. This is a super simple example, Monte Carlo integration. My job here is essentially to direct the work of this little AI and make sure to check it thoroughly. Or, wait a second, what if I just ask it to test itself? It gives some nice proposals for me to do. Wait a second, how about you do all of these, little AI? And I am absolutely loving how it is going to town and checks the validity of its solutions from several different angles. We even get a beautiful little plot of this classic experiment. This tool is an absolute powerhouse, and I feel that as it improves, programming computers will be available for everyone in the world. Loving it. This is just incredible. And
combining something with like that visual, was it the like Visual Basic, where it's block programming, but it like having people be able to, like, let's say I want to create a website, right? If I could design what I want the website to look like, and using a combination of generative art and generative coding, it was able to create the thing that I wanted from its end state working backwards, then that gives people the control that they want, and they don't, like, how long would it take to learn all the stuff that you need to do in order to do that? I had a challenge creating a website with Squarespace. Now, I was super lazy about it. I just jumped right in, which is my habit. And I didn't watch enough of the videos, and I could have learned more and everything else like that. But as I said previously, I have time constraints. Being able to just, this is the website I want to see. And even more so with the ability to, now that you can talk to ChatGPT, but if you were able to, like, work with some more specificity and have it make adjustments, like, not to the entire thing, but doing in painting, right? Like, if you just gave me a grid, like on a map, right? A through whatever, 1 through whatever, and I said, and the grid overlaid the website. Can you put a button at H4? And can you type on that button by now? That is not unreasonable. That is, I would say, with some amount of confidence, you could see that really soon with what we've seen from Matt Wolf and what we're seeing actively being put out with, the move towards multimodal models. Like,
don't forget, this can take files from us, and it can also give files back to us, transfer.
What happened to you? I need an AI that will just fix OBS. Like, make it stop being janky as hell.
Formed. Thus, we can even ask it for a little movie editing, or you can upload your favorite Spotify playlist for it to analyze. It undergoes statistical analysis, and if you like explanations better than visualizations and bar charts, you can even ask it to explain all this in plain English. How cool is that? Wow! So, as you see, ChatGPT hasn't even been out for a year, and it has improved leaps and bounds. You can have this incredible intelligence trained almost on the whole internet right at your fingertips.
You know how whenever you go to the doctor...
Well, that was a sudden cut. Yeah, let's do this one. So, I spoke earlier about David Shapiro, his ACE framework. This is designed with that ACE framework in mind. This is what he said he was going to do as his first project with it. I'm looking forward to seeing what he came up with here. And this goes right along with that idea of the auto dock that I have expressed out here before.
and they ask you 1.5 million questions, and then the doctor asks you the same questions over again. Well, I wanted to automate that. But also, I was inspired by this article that came out just last week or in the last couple weeks. Basically, the story is ChatGPT correctly diagnosed a 4-year-old's pain after 17 doctors failed. It took 3 years, and it was basically something wrong with his spinal cord, and that the parent having access to ChatGPT was able to talk through it and figure out what exactly to share with the doctors and what to ask for, and was able to get a proper diagnosis. And now, because of AI, they were able to diagnose this tethered cord
David doesn't use an ad blocker
syndrome and treat the little boy, which is great. But, rather than allowing or basically requiring someone to fudge through it on their own, I wanted to apply my considerable technical skills at automating this pipeline. So let me show you real quick. Oops, you don't need to see that. There we go. Let me show you real quick what I did. So this is what it looks like, and this is we'll unpack all the code in just a moment, but I wanted to show you kind of end to end what I did. So first, let me zoom in so that you can see this. First, it's a simple chatbot that acts like that intake interview. And before we jump in, I need to say that very definitively, this is not a medical device. This is not approved by the FDA. This is not approved by any medical regulator. It is also provided under the MIT license, which means use this at your own risk. It is provided as is. This is provided for scientific curiosity only. Do not use this as a medical device. Do not use this for diagnosis. It is not ready. I will unpack all the reasons why it is not ready by the end of the video. But it is useful and it is helpful. And I want to basically just prove that the technology is ready for the next step in clinical usage with the proper testing, so on and so forth. Okay, so with that out of the way, it starts off as a simple chatbot that it has this very simple mission of asking clinical questions, the same way that an intake nurse will ask you kind of these interview questions to figure out what's going on. The next thing that it does is it compresses everything that you give it into just a few notes. And so again, this is the point. So it takes that whole conversation, compresses it to the most salient notes.
What up, Donnie? Doesn't it suck that the AI cares more about humans than another human? I like... yeah. And I don't blame the humans for their behavior, right? Like, I actively try to make my interactions with people, doing their jobs and stuff like that as easy for them as possible and as positive for them as possible. But that's me. Like, I mean, that is an active choice that I try to do because I understand where they're at. People get ground down and we are prone to find that path of least resistance. So you get involved in behaviors that, that go in that regard. But this is exactly like, this is needed, right? But it does cause issues related to, job loss, but we already have a solution for that if people would just be willing to execute on it.
And then from those notes, it will generate a couple of hypotheses. And so this clinical report is what it believes are the most likely possible things to investigate. So these are diagnostic hypotheses, which again, this is how not necessarily how all clinicians work. And also some clinicians out there might be saying, well, you're kind of jumping ahead because you shouldn't be coming up with a hypothesis yet. There's also a few problems with this. So let's start unpacking why this really simple approach is, I'm already aware that it's flawed. So this is basically just kind of bringing up the things that it thinks are most likely. We don't know how ChatGPT was trained to handle things like symptoms. It's entirely possible that it will miss rarer conditions. And I've actually thought about creating a version of this that is for like, you know, hey, we've already gone through like a lot of specialists. We're trying to find rare conditions now.
I mean, ChatGPT hit that kid's condition, you know, after a bunch of doctors missed it. So like, there's at least some positive signs that it has that capability. 17, yeah.
ChatGPT was able to help find the cause of that little boy's pain with tethered cord
Or
syndrome.
I can just shut up.
I think it probably has the capacity to systematically and formally discover rare conditions. But
there is some data missing here. Like also when you go, they take your blood pressure, they take your temperature. There's a bunch of, what up, Maddie? There's no, just intake at like a medical facility kind of thing. So there is some data missing, but like you can solve some of those problems by having a device, you know, or again, the auto doc is a concept where it's able to measure that stuff in real time in a convenient way. You just go, you sit down, you spend about 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the booth, and it asks you a bunch of questions in a nice soothing voice, and you have a pleasant experience. And then, you know, if it, in its opinion, it feels like you should see like a person or a more specific AI in the longer future, then you get the referral right there, you know, and theoretically it will be able to spot a condition that needs to be addressed immediately, faster, right? Like, because you could come in, I mean, you've been in an emergency room, right? You come in, you do your primary intake, and you sit in the chair. And then you do your secondary intake, and then you sit in a chair. And then they come and get you, and they put you in a room. And then you wait in the room for a while. And then they might run tests or what have you. And eventually the doctor shows up, all that kind of thing, you know? Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, if you don't have a head injury, you're probably going to be there for a minute. Or like if you're not bleeding out, right? Yeah. Or bring a book, you know, and sit and read.
This is more of a primary care practice, a PCP kind of approach. Because again, one of the things that particularly in America that's a problem is medical care is incredibly expensive. And if you can reduce most doctor's office visits to like 5 minutes with a nurse, and then they interact with a machine, then the cost could go from hundreds of dollars to literally like $5 to $10 per visit. And this could be something that could really drastically help underserved populations. Okay, so in this case,
But I mean, there are other issues related to why our medical care is so expensive, but this would be a significant reduction. I feel you. Like that is the concern. The idea is that as it becomes available to make profit that undercuts the current financial paradigm, that has a potential to drive costs down. That is the way it is supposed to work, and in some scenarios does work. But they're like, and I agree with that. Not every doctor should be a doctor, and not every doctor. Like I don't disagree. Like we've been doing healthcare wrong since at least the 1970s.
Pretending to be an older gentleman who is having freezing episodes. If you're familiar with the news, there is a particular older
No? Right. But the way that we have done socialized medicine is not doing it right. Therefore, it doesn't create the outcome that would be best. Yeah. Right? There's always this story of, oh, you used to be able to go to the doctor and then they would, charge based on your circumstances. Right? But I don't know that that was ever the case. And like, what Nixon did with the, I can't remember, but it was one of those healthcare kind of moves which sounded good, but like it was nowhere near what needed to be done. Yeah.
Gentleman who has had some rather public freezing episodes, and so I basically pretended to be him, or someone with it who's presenting similar things of freezing for 20 seconds every now and then. So the chat intake takes all that, and then
exactly, like, I mean, and there's still to this day issues with some doctors and other healthcare professionals who believe that black folks are more resistant to pain and therefore, like, it is so like, it is the exact opposite of what healthcare is supposed to provide. And it's infuriating.
and compresses it down to notes. Then it generates this clinical report, this set of diagnostic hypotheses. It says, okay, this is what I think it is. In this case, it could be a transient ischemic attack, also known as a mini stroke, blah, blah, blah. So it just spells it out in plain English. Neurological dysfunction caused by temporary loss of blood flow. Differentials. So for those of you that are not familiar with the clinical term, differentials is basically like, what are some...
And that's the thing that they always say, like, if you socialize medicine, then there won't be enough doctors. It's like we already have a staffing problem. Give me the fucking robots. Yeah.
Similar but different things that could cause the same thing. And in working with ChatGPT and the API to like figure out exactly how to approach this, I realized that one thing that clinicians always do is they're keeping in mind, okay, here's my primary hypothesis, but here's also a list of differentials that I need to keep track of. And just by writing it down, these are all other avenues to investigate. Demographics, more common in older adults, particularly those over 60, and that's probative here because the patient is 80 or in his 80s. Symptoms such...
No, and then it's also like your, what is your economic status? And then you have access to, things that other people don't have. Or like when I got COVID and I asked for Paxlovid, and it was only because I had taken up smoking again because I was stressed out over the pandemic, that when I told my doctor that I had taken up smoking again, only then did he provide me with Paxlovid. It's like, why? Why? Dental care and eyeglasses. Like, every 2 years, I can go get a pair of glasses with the insurance that I have. I consider myself lucky. I don't know who that is. Is that a real person? That's a hell of a name.
sudden weakness or numbness on one side of the body, confusion, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Indicators, patient's age, episodes of freezing, loss of consciousness, confusion, or difficulty in finding the right words after episodes.
Right on.
Contraindicators, no reported weakness, numbness, severe headache, or dizziness. So from a clinical perspective, something like indicators is this is stuff that says, yes, this is positive. This is...
Speaking of which, while I'm thinking about it, give me 1 second, and give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Where did you put it? Do 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 do. You know what's wild to me is that y'all have on Twitch. Whenever I hear Hogwatch, I think of Hogswatch from the Discworld books. I just have a different frame. Where is it? There it is. Boom. For those of you within the United States, they opened up the free COVID tests, rapid tests by mail with USPS. So make sure you hit that link and you order your tests. Especially y'all, because I like you the most.
Positively correlated with what we're thinking about. And then contraindications or contraindicators are things that basically say, well, it's not hitting on all cylinders. It doesn't match up perfectly. So again, like differentials, you want to be mindful of what matches.
I still have links off because of the thing. I could probably turn links back on again because I think that there was an issue of like bad links going around and hijacking profiles and stuff like that. I could probably turn that off and give you all, because everyone in here is usually well behaved, and they people who are being weird stand out real quick.
And what doesn't match. Prognosis, TIAs are often warning signs of future strokes. With proper management, the risk can be significantly reduced. So this is all information that can be like either given to the patient or given to an intake nurse or someone who might have less specific experience. But again, it's also important to remember that these are not diagnoses yet. These are hypotheses for investigation. And then finally, it recommends some potential treatments and tests to go with it. And then the second option is epilepsy. So I actually watched a neurophysician, neurologist, that's the word, a neurologist breakdown, actually several breakdowns of some of these events. And they basically said the same thing. The two primary things that they suspect are transient ischemic attacks, which is a mini stroke, or epilepsy, or a particular kind of epilepsy. So in this case, based on outside information, this ChatGPT API directly agrees with what some professionals have mentioned. Granted, again, any responsible clinician will tell you you cannot diagnose someone just from watching a couple videos of them freezing up in public. But given the same information that I have and giving that information to this tool that I've built, it came up with roughly the same, basically clinical. I'm not going to say conclusion, but avenues of investigation. And so then the next phase is now that it has done the intake, it has summarized the intake, it has come up with a few hypotheses. It is now recommending clinical evaluation, and I actually messed up on the output, so we need to switch over to the logs, and I haven't saved it all to log files right now. Now, if you want to use this or test it out, obviously don't put your own personal clinical information up on GitHub. Don't put it up publicly. Don't share it with anyone other than your medical provider because of patient confidentiality laws, which are pretty universal. They're actually stricter in Europe, I believe, than in America. So anyways, here's a breakdown of what we saved. So here's the chat log. Here's the notes. Here is the diagnostic hypotheses. And then finally, here's the clinical pane. So this is a clinical report or a clinical evaluation report that is meant to be then given to the physician or the clinician, whether it's a nurse practitioner or registered nurse or physician's assistant. And so the first thing that it does is recommend all of the sensations to engage with the patient in order to basically dial in, like, what is it that you're looking for. And the reason that I included this is because if you talk to particularly ER physicians, but really any experienced physician, they can often get a tremendous amount of information just by walking into a room and glancing at the patient. There will be specific like pallors that the patient might have, or like expressions. There could also be particular smells associated with various conditions. So for instance, if someone is in ketosis, they're going to have a very distinctive smell, which ChatGPT doesn't have a sense of smell yet. So, but it can tell the clinician, like, hey, if you smell this thing, this is a sign of ketosis, and pay attention to that because that can be very probative. Whereas inexperienced clinicians might not recognize, they might notice the smell, but they might not know what it means. And so this section is basically saying, like, hey, look for this kind of thing.
And again, to take it back to the multimodal aspect that we were talking about earlier, it's going to, under those conditions where it can see, it can hear, then it can intake more data and do comparisons, and at the very least to act as an assistant to get past a lot of the biases that people might have. Again, looking back to that kid with the rare condition and the 17 doctors. Now that is an outlier, right? Like it's a single event. It's not something that we're going to base anything off of. It's just an example of a good outcome that could potentially, like, whatever was done in that scenario can be used as a model to create other good scenarios off of that. Yeah, like, I'm with you, Donnie. Like, the robot doesn't care, right? And, like, just the act of having to disclose personal information to another human being can be awkward, no matter what that human being's job is, because of the feelings of judgment that we all have, right? The robot doesn't have that. Like, you don't feel weird disclosing something to the robot.
The second section of the clinical report is examination. So this is like what you're physically supposed to do. You know how, like, the doctors always come in and they poke and they prod you and they, like, check your reflexes, that sort of thing. This first version, it recommended other examinations that are not part of the primary care practice.
I bumped up his speed to 1.25. It's kind of long. It's a little sleeper. I'm interested. Some of you seem interested. But, like, it's very, procedural.
So I modified it. So if you run this again, it'll give you slightly different output. And then finally, it also has some recommended interview questions. So this is basically priming the doctor or the clinician to say, hey, here are some follow-up questions that you might want to use in order to interview this patient to get more information. And again, this is why physicians always ask some of the same questions again. It's not that they don't necessarily trust their intake staff. It's just they want to see your reaction for themselves. And they also might, based on their clinical experience, dial into something that the intake clinicians missed. So yeah, in this case, I have it set so that it'll tell you like what it's looking for. So episode triggers, in the case of the freezing, have you noticed any patterns or triggers? Post-episode symptoms, medical history, and concussion follow-up, like have you done anything for the concussion that preceded all this? So this is the clinical evaluation. And then finally, you know how doctors, they'll send you away with a list of tests and referrals and stuff. So I have it do the same thing. So the referral here from primary care says, go to a neurologist. I'm actually kind of surprised that it didn't recommend a cardiologist. However, it did recommend a carotid ultrasound. So basically saying like, hey, let's check for any blockages of the blood flow to the brain. So let's do an EEG. This will test to identify abnormal electrical activity, which again, one of the neurologists that I watched recommended this. But she did point out that one of the problems with some of these transient things is that the abnormal electrical activity is itself also transient if it is the case of a seizure or epilepsy. And so it can be difficult to determine unless you like have the electrodes on someone while they're having an episode. An MRI, again, this makes sense because if there's a lesion or a tumor or something, the MRI will discover that. And then CBC for and metabolic panel. So this basically says like, hey, there could be some underlying medical conditions such as anemia or electrolyte imbalances, which would be interesting. So again, like you just need more information. But yeah, so this is an end-to-end process that the only input I gave it was this chat log. And then you can see it compressed it into clinical notes, which can be recorded in the chart. It came up with some diagnostic hypotheses. It came up with a clinical recommendation panel, basically census, examination, and interview questions. And then finally, referrals, labs, and tests. So this is an end-to-end process, and I've kind of unpacked some of the limitations along the way. So one of the chief limitations is obviously ChatGPT does not have hands. It doesn't have eyes, ears, nose, whatever. So it doesn't have all the clinical senses that a clinical practitioner will have, but it has read enough of this content on the internet in order to understand that this is generally how medical evaluations go. And my goal here is twofold. One, I want to demonstrate that it's possible and relatively simple. So a little bit of background about me is back in my corporate days, I was an IT infrastructure engineer with a specialization on cloud and automation. And so the biggest project that I ever automated was to update the firmware of several hundred servers, as well as the drivers of the operating systems running on those servers. And these were hypervisors. So a hypervisor is a particular kind of server that runs virtual machines. So this is the kind of hardware and software stack that underpins all cloud instances. And so what I had to do was we had a critical patch on our storage system. So we had several petabytes of data that we needed to make sure we didn't disrupt. And we had hundreds of really, really large servers. And by large servers, I mean these servers had 2 terabytes of RAM each running cloud-based workloads. And so what I needed to do was I needed to update the firmware after we updated the firmware of the storage system. So I needed to update the firmware of the storage cards on the servers and then update the drivers within the operating systems running on those servers. And I needed to do it without disrupting the workload. So rather than spend weeks and weeks doing this manually, I spent 1 week writing the scripts to do this automatically. And then I set it to go overnight. It worked for about 8 hours straight while I was asleep. And I came back the next morning. All of my servers had been patched and rebooted. And yeah, so I did this back in like 2015. So this is like old hat for me. And so the automation process of 5 simple steps like this is like pretty basic. Now, obviously, if you've been following my work, you know that I'm working on something that is fully autonomous and should be able to do this entirely on its own with the simple mission of achieve the best health outcome for the patient as the mission. But what I wanted to show is that for a more structured approach, for something that could be adapted to be a clinical tool today, this is something that is within the realm of possibilities. Another major gap from this tool is, again, we don't really know how ChatGPT will identify things. So there's a rule of thumb in the medical community, which common problems are common. And so, transient ischemic attack and epilepsy, these are common conditions that pretty much everyone knows.
And you can fix this with, just training a particular LLM to, on particular information. This is an easy fix.
Knows about. It does mention a few other possibilities like syncope, migraine, metabolic disorders, panic attacks, that sort of thing. So it does pick up on a few other things. But one thing that is lacking from this system is I haven't basically focused on differentials or rare conditions, but that would be pretty easy as an additional step. So basically, what I would do for that is I would just plug in the notes and say, hey, based on these, here's the common things we know about. What are the rare things? What are the differentials that we might be ignoring? And so that would be a relatively easy thing to add, but you don't necessarily want to count on that only, which is why I ended it with referrals and follow-up tests, because that's a responsible thing to do anyways. Patients are going to be intrinsically unaware of some of the things going on inside their bodies. So anyways, let's now that you understand kind of what's going on here, let's explore the repository. So I have a
I think we're good on exploring the repository. If you want to look into this more, it will, of course, be in the Discord. I'm feeling some Matt Wolf. I'm feeling some the AI hype is back. I didn't get the link, Maddie. If you want to send it to me via Discord, then I can take a look at it. But I don't. I turned the links off because of the malicious links thing and like that.
The battle for AI dominance between Google.
Yeah, no, we are not going to have Matt Wolf on 1.25.
And Microsoft really heated up this week. Now, I just flew back in from New York where I was attending a Microsoft event, so I'm a day late on making this news video, but man, it has been a week with announcements from Google, YouTube, Microsoft, OpenAI, Amazon.
I think I've seen this guy.
Tell me about yourself. I'm a gastroenterologist who hasn't seen a patient in 12 years. Why did you stop practicing? License suspended. Medicare fraud. That shows initiative. I like that. Why do you want to work for United Healthcare? I want to give people peace of mind when it comes to their healthcare costs. Why do you really want to work for United Healthcare? Money. I want it. Who do you want to take that money from? Everybody. Even the poor and infirm? Especially the poor and infirm. Do you keep up with the latest medical advances? Absolutely not. How's your empathy? Non-existent. A neurosurgeon requests prior authorization for emergency removal of a brain tumor. How do you respond? We'll get back to you in 6 to 8 weeks. What brings you joy? Maximizing corporate profits while getting yelled at by desperate Americans with crushing amounts of medical debt. Here's a claim. Review it. Denied. Don't you want to look at it first? No. Tell me about your...
Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate. I mean, that's a whole chunk of what The Incredibles started off with, right? And what drove Mr. Impossible over the edge.
Amazon, Intel. I mean, this week was a week where everybody was talking about AI. So let's just jump straight in with probably the biggest news that came out of this week was that OpenAI unveiled DALL-E 3. And as you can see from their example images, DALL-E 3 has gotten much better than DALL-E 2 with things like actual text. I just feel so empty inside, and much more contrasty images than what we used to get out of DALL-E. Here's a side-by-side comparison that they gave of DALL-E 2 versus DALL-E 3 using the same prompt, an expressive oil painting of a basketball player dunking, depicted as an explosion of a nebula. This was DALL-E 2 on the left here. This was DALL-E 3 on the right. Quite an improvement. In their demo video here, they actually show somebody using it with more of a conversational language. My 5-year-old keeps talking about super duper sunflower hedgehog. What does it look like? And then it generates some pictures of a hedgehog. My daughter says its name's Larry. Can I see more? Generates more of the same hedgehog. Can I see Larry's house? It generates a house with Larry on it. Larry is so cute. What makes him so special? Here's the reasons. And then it actually sort of tells a story about Larry. So not only is it creating images, it's creating stories and creating environments and creating sticker designs. And so it looks like with DALL-E 3, the goal is no longer to just type a prompt of an image you want to see, but actually have a conversation with ChatGPT to get to the image you're looking for. And speaking of ChatGPT, they're actually building it straight into ChatGPT. So you're not going to use a separate DALL-E 3 site. You're just going to go to ChatGPT and have it generate images for you. They gave a whole bunch of other examples of some images. If you click on any one of these images here, you can see the prompt that was used in DALL-E 3 to get that image. You can also see some of the text, find the universe within you. So it seems to be doing pretty good with text. And then I came across this tweet from...
It's been a year
Nick St. Pierre here on Twitter, where he took a bunch of these images that they showed as examples here and then ran the exact same prompt into Midjourney to see how they compared. And here's what
Since, like, I don't know when DALL-E came out, but at least DALL-E 2, like, just the progression of, like, this is episode 105. So I've been doing this for what, like 30 weeks? No, DALL-E. And this is DALL-E 3. There you go. Like, they are, or there's a lot of antitrust stuff going on, but I don't know if any of it's going to pan out.
what he came up with. Here's that same heart image. On the top is the DALL-E 3 version. On the bottom is the Midjourney version. Obviously, Midjourney isn't going to generate text like DALL-E 3 is. Here's an image of a house on a cliffside that DALL-E 3 generated. Here's the Midjourney version. The top on this one is DALL-E, the bottom is Midjourney. And looking through a lot of these, I would say that in some instances, DALL-E seems to make a better image, and some of these other instances, I think Midjourney seems to make a better image, but they're definitely closing the gap between them. And the ability to just do it straight inside of ChatGPT as opposed to Discord, like we're used to with Midjourney now, I think is going to be a much needed user experience up.
And what I would like to see to take advantage, like, take advantage of the anti-AI art sentiment and have a website, and you could do that. You just tell people exactly what they're getting into, right? You don't have to be shady about it. But anti-AI art people, when they are told that this is AI art, they have all sorts of feelings about it. You know what I mean? Right? You know, there's something off. I don't feel the depth. I don't like whatever. And I would like a website that it could provide human feedback, right? And again, make it perfectly clear what people are getting into. So there's no deception, nothing weird. We're going to show you a piece of art created by a person and a piece of art created by an AI, and you have to pick it, right? You have to decide which is which. So it's a head-to-head comparison, you know. Absolutely. Absolutely, Maddie. Like, again, it's a function of time, right? Because people, especially GMs who are mad into providing a good experience, they want that, you know, they want to give you the best, right? Like, they want you to feel it. They want you to be talking about that particular session for the rest of the week so that you come back next time and you carry on the thing. Like, people who complain about Baldur's Gate, I'm having a great time because I'm playing with friends. I've got multiple iterations depending on which person is available and like that. And I haven't even gotten out of Act 1, right? Like, because it's about the experience and playing the game. It's not about winning. It's not about finishing. It's about the experience of hanging out with your friends and doing stuff. In one of my characters, he no longer has the same eyes. It did a thing. Whatever, Reed. Yeah, no, like, some people just didn't like it, and I understand that, and I don't give a shit. You're allowed to not like things. There's a trend, and I've said this before, like, I was just playing Crusader Kings 3. It's a strategy game. There's so much that's outside of your control. You got to balance all sorts of different stuff. And it is like, it takes a particular kind of player to play that kind of game. And I think that there's a lack of playing strategy games that is causing people to reinforce certain behaviors, right? Like, when you play a fighting game, when you play a first-person shooter, when you do those, you're playing a short iteration. It's you versus the game. It's very individualized. It's very like, I have to overcome this. I have to be the best. I got to do it. When you're playing a strategy game, you're laying the groundwork sometimes for something that's not going to happen until way later in the game. And if you're playing against other players, like, it gets involved, right? Like in the board games, but even in the video games. And I think there's something missing. Yeah, no, like, I don't know if it'll come up again, Lobster, but yeah. Like, like, I'm just vibing. I'm just having a good time.
Upgrade. So here's another one where the top is DALL-E, the bottom is Midjourney. What do you think? Do you think DALL-E is going to give Midjourney a run for its money, especially since it's going to be just in ChatGPT for people who already use ChatGPT at no additional cost? It's also going to be inside of Bing.
Like, how can you honestly tell me that you know that this is an AI picture of a crab? Right? The foam one, maybe, you know, because, like, I've never seen that before. But this one down here, that looks like some National Geographic shit.
But we're going to talk about that in a minute. According to OpenAI's press release, DALL-E 3 will be available to ChatGPT Plus and enterprise customers in early October. They'll also be available for commercial use. It says, as with DALL-E 2, the images you create with DALL-E 3 are yours to use, and you don't need our permission to reprint, sell, or merchandise them. Next up, I want this video. In other OpenAI news this week, theinformation.com dropped an article about how OpenAI hustles to beat Google to launch a multimodal LLM. Now, I'm not personally subscribed to the information because, well, yeah. So I get my news from websites that report on what other websites are reporting on, like this AI Beat website. And essentially what it says is that OpenAI isn't necessarily working on GPT-5 right now. They're working on making more and more improvements to GPT-4, including what they're currently calling GPT Vision, which is the additional multimodal capabilities for ChatGPT. Essentially, they want ChatGPT to work a lot more like what they showed off in the GPT-4 demo when GPT-4 came out, like how it can interpret images, understand context, and produce text or responses that incorporate both text and visual input. And this, of course, comes a week after Google was talking about how Gemini is coming out soon and it's going to blow GPT-4 out of the water. So the battle between OpenAI/Microsoft and Google is really on right now. And from an AI nerd perspective, it's been really, really fun and exciting to watch. Because at the end of the day, it just means cooler and more improved tools for us to use. This week, OpenAI also announced that they are starting an OpenAI red teaming network. They're basically trying to find a whole bunch of outside experts in various fields, things like cognitive science, chemistry, biology, physics, alignment, education, healthcare, finance, biometrics, privacy, cybersecurity, misinformation, things like that. They want experts in all of these different areas to sort of form a team together to all work together to figure.
Love that. We covered that before, but if you weren't here, love that. Love multiple disciplinary, like, you gotta look at the whole thing. You gotta look at the whole thing. It's a holistic. You gotta do the whole thing, right? This is what we want to see. Now, we'll see the execution and then make a judgment, but this is at least pointing in the right direction.
Figure out how to solve a lot of these problems, and they're going to be outside sources. These aren't going to be, team members working inside of OpenAI. This is a third party that they're trying to create here. If you're an expert and you want to participate in this red team, you can reach out at redteam@openai.com, and it looks like you can apply up through December 1st, 2023. And since we're on the subject of OpenAI, more authors are suing OpenAI. I feel like a broken record because I talk about this in almost every single end of the week AI news video about more people, more companies suing OpenAI. This week it is George R.R. Martin, the creator of Game of Thrones, along with John Grisham, Jonathan.
I feel like George got mad because that dude took the Song of Ice and Fire books and put them in ChatGPT and then had it run off the final two novels, and that hurt. So we'll see.
Franzen, Jody Picoult. Once again, it's another lawsuit saying that OpenAI scraped the entire contents of their work, and now people can go and use OpenAI as an alternative to purchasing and reading their books. I am no expert whatsoever, so don't take what I say very seriously, but I actually think that the authors probably aren't going to win these, because at the end of the day, the way AI works and the way these AIs are trained is essentially the same way that a human is trained. Now, if somebody grows up to become an author and throughout their life they read books by George R.R. Martin, they read books by John Grisham, they read books by Michael Crichton and Stephen King and all of these authors, and then they grow up to write their own book, and their books are heavily influenced by all of the works that they've read up until then. That's essentially how the AI is working. Now, these complaints about how if AI consumes all of these books and then we ask it questions about those books, and then it could give us responses, so then we don't need to go read those books. Well, isn't that already happening on YouTube? Aren't there already like book reviews out there where somebody read the book and then gave you a general quick synopsis so you don't have to read it? Well, that person who made that synopsis for you did the same thing the AI did. They ingested the book and then figured out how to summarize it in an easier way for you to understand. Same thing goes if me and you were just having a conversation. If I read an entire book and you said, oh, I'll probably never read that, can you tell me what it's about? I can regurgitate it based on me consuming.
Like, anyone who does a summary of Tolkien's like extended universe, right, to explain to you what Gandalf is and what the Balrog is and where all this crap comes from and all these other things, right? Like, they read the Silmarillion and you didn't. So what is the actual difference?
Consuming it, and what I understood. The AI is just doing that same thing. If you kind of look at it from that perspective of, well, if an AI can consume a book and then sort of tell you what it understands about the book based on questions you ask of it, well, then the AI would have to then somehow pay the author royalties because they were able to give you some information about the book. Does that mean me reading the book, I would have to now pay the author some sort of royalty because I consume the book? And then it's a very gray area subject, but based on the sort of logic that plays out in my head around it, I have a hard time seeing a lot of these authors win these lawsuits. But again, not a lawyer. Take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm just sort of randomly ranting here.
My man Lenny gave you a gifted sub. I was happy to see that. Ivan is also a streamer. He does some interesting stuff around philosophy and stuff like that. I like. What was it? Brian hit me off with that. You were talking about consciousness. And Brian asked me to define consciousness real quick. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, and I feel that theory of mind, consciousness, I mean, at some point in time, there could be a conscious AI entity, and I think that we should have those kind of discussions before it happens so that we're not doing terrible things to a conscious entity. That would be bad.
All right, let's talk about Microsoft. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I just flew in from New York because I was actually at this event where they were making all of these announcements. I was actually sitting in the very front row, and this head right here is me. I know it's me because this is the microphone that I had attached to my camera, and I was sitting in the front row. This right here is Pete Huang from the Neuron newsletter, and this right here is Rowan Chung from the Rundown newsletter. And down here was iJustine, also another tech YouTuber. So the whole front row was pretty much various creators in the AI space. So it was really cool that Microsoft was flying people like us out, the creators that are making things like YouTube videos and AI newsletters, to sit front row for some of these events. Now, because I flew out to this event,
not to get sidetracked, I feel like I should have you on, that we should schedule a thing to talk about AI and consciousness. I've done this before. If you feel like going into the VOD, it's the episode where I talk with K-Pars. But like, I just listened to a whole thing from Ray Kurzweil talking about consciousness and like whether or not we can even tell that another entity is conscious, and it's a whole thing. It's like it's a whole week of episodes unto itself. It's not simple.
And shot a whole bunch of.
Yeah, I'll are you in my Discord? I'll reach out to you via Discord and see what we can set up. Speaking of which, this Wednesday, so not tomorrow, but the day after, at the beginning of the episode, so like right around 5:00, look at Nightbot AI. That's what I need. I say something, Nightbot gives it to me. Wednesday at 5:00, like right around 5:00, right around the start of stream, going to be having a conversation with Paradigm. We're talking about, like in the AI future, like utopian future, potentially we have, like on-demand desire resolution, right? Like if I want something, I can have it now. What up, Magic? And this is like, it kind of goes hand in hand with the AI art aspect. If I design something, if I create something with AI art, as opposed to the time it takes to create something like manually, then like, you know, what are the good, the bad, the pitfalls, the benefits? This is what we're going to be talking about. So it should be an interesting conversation. I always like to talk to a Paradigm. So if that sounds like something you want to hear, make sure you're here 5:00 on Wednesday, 5:00 Eastern, because he will be ending out his stream and I will be beginning mine. So it's going to, you know, kick off like right then.
Footage. I'm actually going to make a video dedicated to this event. It's going to be a fun sort of vlog style where I sort of walk you through my experience of going to New York and meeting with all these other creators and getting to sit in the front row of this event, and then actually getting to speak with a lot of these people that were on stage in one-on-one sessions to ask them questions and learn more about what they're doing. So that is way too much for this specific video, but I will give you the breakdown quickly of the news that was announced at this event. They really kicked it off by announcing that Windows 11 is going to have AI baked into like everything. You're going to be able to just use your Photos app to remove backgrounds. You're going to be able to have conversations with a little chat window that's going to query all of your documents in Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel and PowerPoint and all of the Microsoft suite of tools. You're going to be able to just query straight to them using AI. They're also about to make Outlook free for everybody. So if you have a Windows account, you're going to get a free account to Outlook, and Outlook's going to have a whole bunch of AI features built into it, including the ability to write emails that sound like your past emails. So it actually learns on your emails, your tone of voice, how you typically write, and will write emails in your style. So here's the quick breakdown. We're going to get Copilot in Windows, which is sort of that sidebar chat that you see in Edge right now. We're going to get new AI features in Paint. We're going to get new AI features in Photos. You're going to be able to extract text from images and copy and paste text directly from images into other applications. Clipchamp is getting an update, which will help you with scene to.
Like, your boy is a huge fan of the snipping tool. I use it a lot. And the idea that I can snip text out of an image and put it into a text format is pretty cool. And Chip Champ or Clip Champ is pretty decent. If you don't want to get into a whole, like video software kind of thing, you want something simple to use that's good for cutting clips, right? Like, it's good for that. I don't know that I would recommend it for longer video editing. For that, I'm still saying Descript is awesome. But Clipchamp, because it's a Microsoft product and it's going to be integrated, there might be some advantages there. And it might end up doing, the same thing that Descript does, in which case Clipchamp is free.
Suggestions, edits and narratives, and a bunch of other AI features to help you edit videos. There's some updates to Notepad, Outlook, what we just talked about, a modernized file explorer, and a whole bunch more features coming to Windows 11 starting on September 26th. Bing and Edge
That's
are getting a whole bunch of new
tomorrow.
features as well. Divya here, who made most of the announcements about Bing and Edge updates, I actually did get a chance to have a one-on-one sit down with her to ask her more questions about what's coming, what's going to become of SEO, things like that. I had a really fascinating discussion. Again, I'll share a lot of that in an upcoming video. But inside of Bing and your Edge chat, you're going to get more personalized answers where it actually remembers a lot of the history of previous conversations and previous things that you're doing on your computer to use as additional context in your conversations. You're going to get a Copilot in Microsoft Shopping. They announced that DALL-E 3, which I already mentioned.
I don't know, baby. I don't know. I'm going to say probably the cloud, because I don't know that it's your, like, I don't know. I'm just speculating. I don't know.
Earlier in this video is going to be accessible directly within Bing Chat, and it's going to be usable for free inside of Bing Chat too, so no additional cost. You can just have it create images for you using DALL-E 3 inside of Bing. And
There you go. You don't even have to pay for ChatGPT Plus. If you can use Bing, just rename it. Just not Bing. Name it Copilot. Yeah, like, it might theoretically, like, a mixed bag, right? Like, if it's something that can be handled with the resources on your system, but then if it needs more resources, it might need to go to the cloud. I don't know. There are contexts in which I would be happy for AI to work this way, but I don't want everything to suck into the... I get that. I do. So... I want a fully integrated AI future that, like, as I use AI tools, I find more places where there's a lot of, mundane, boring ass, takes a long time compared to the results, all that kind of stuff, that I'm more than happy to have automated. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I would use Ask Jeeves. I would totally use Ask Jeeves.
putting their 365 Copilot into pretty much everything. And this is sort of similar to what Google is doing with their Duet, where you get this sort of large language model chatbot directly inside of tools like Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint. Tools like that can now be queried through large language models and all sort of interact with each other. They also announced their new Surface devices at this event, which are much more powerful than previous models, using NVIDIA 4050 and NVIDIA 4060 graphics cards. At one point at the event, they had it rendering a 3D file from Blender on both M2 Mac and also one of these new Surface Pros, and the Surface actually finished the render in half the time that the M2 Mac did. They also put Llama 2 onto one of these surfaces and was able to run the large language model locally using these new NVIDIA graphics cards. They show off some cool generative fill technology using Adobe's suite of tools where they were able to use their stylus pen on the screen, sort of circle areas that they wanted to edit, and then use generative fill to change those areas. So that ability to use like a pen tool to get generative fill edits on a touchscreen tablet like this looks like it'll be something really, really valuable. But again, look out for a longer, deeper breakdown of a lot of this Microsoft event with some fun video vlogging elements around it that I shot while at this event. That should be coming out pretty soon. And finally, to wrap up the Microsoft related news, GitHub, which is a company owned by Microsoft, announced that their Copilot chat beta is now available for all individuals. So the GitHub Copilot is essentially a large language model chatbot that will help you write and debug and fix coding problems. So you can be chatting with your code and say, why is this code not working? It can help you analyze the code. You can tell it to write you a script about something specific, and it can try to write that script, and you can basically have conversations back and forth with the GitHub Copilot to get your code dialed in.
This is Matt Wolf, Wolf with an E on the end. He's one of my favorites. Yeah, that's spelling.
We can see in this animation here, they ask, how do I create a Chrome extension? What should the file structure look like? And then it goes and creates a file structure for a Chrome extension for them. All they had to do was ask with natural language.
Matt has a like a page that he runs called futuretools.io and has a whole bunch of AI tools that are available and really easy to sort. If you just want access to the stuff that's free, you push button, everything's free. That's the one. Thank you, Old Lobster. Thank you, Donnie. I love you guys. You're like my community, our community, the best. I talk about you in Meat Space.
Language. Now, if you do want to play around with GitHub Copilot, it is $10 a month or $100 a year, but they do have a free trial that looks like it gets you about 30 days of use before you actually got to start paying that $10 a month. Now, of course, we can't have a week of Microsoft and OpenAI being in the spotlight without Google jumping in and showing off some really cool stuff as well. So this week, Google actually added a bunch of new features to Bard, like the extensions feature, which basically allows you to connect your Bard and
I was out there touching grass.
Have chat conversations with things like YouTube, Google Maps, Google Hotels, Google Flights, Google Drive, Gmail, and Google Docs. They also added the double check feature where after Bard gives you a response, you can have it double check Google to find sources for the information that Bard used. Now, this is one that I already made a video about, so I kind of did a little bit deeper of a dive on Google Bard. The video looks like this, but you can see real quickly, there's a little extensions button up here in the top right. If I click on this, I am connected to Google Flights, Hotels, Maps, Workspace, and YouTube. Because it's connected to my Google Workspace, it has access to Gmail, Drive, Docs, etc. So I can enter a prompt like, what are the recent updates from my
The weather's still warm enough to do both, Lobster.
kid's school and my email. It will actually search my email for any announcements related to what's going on at my kid's school and then round it all up for me. And then, of course, I can click into any one of these and it will go directly to that email.
I'm available. You know me. I will talk to anybody. I will talk to anybody. And if we both know them, then I will definitely talk to that person.
Multimodal capabilities of Bard have gotten a lot better over the last several weeks as well. I was able to upload this picture of a cheeseburger and actually get ingredients and a recipe to make a similar looking cheeseburger. Again, I have a whole breakdown of some of Bard's recent updates, which I...
As a person whose like meat space life is complex and varied and nuanced and occupied, and I respect it.
Potential
Like,
and the peril here are huge.
thank you for the follow. Like I'm not giving anybody a hard time. Life is hard. Get an AI assistant.
I highly recommend checking out. But that's not all we got from Google this week. On the same day that I was at the Microsoft event, YouTube put on an event to announce
care,
a whole
Ivan.
bunch
I'll
of new
reach out
AI
to you.
features that they're rolling out. They announced things like Dream Screen, which are AI-generated images or video backgrounds for shorts. We can actually see an example here, Panda drinking coffee, and then it gives us kind of a Gen 2 Pika Labs style video of a panda drinking coffee. They announced YouTube Create, which is a new editing and production app for mobile creators. This is kind of like YouTube's answer to CapCut. They also announced AI Insights, tools to spark inspiration and help creators decide what to make their next video about, which to me seems like they're kind of going head to head with tools like vidIQ. You can
Because if you look at the numbers, it's mobile, right? I'm with you, Sarah. I get it. Yeah, but like that's where, you know,
can see here from this screenshot, they've got a button that says generate outline suggestions, and it actually helps outline a video.
Yeah.
So it says next year, YouTube Studio will tap generative AI to spark video ideas and draft outlines to help creators brainstorm. The insights will be personalized for each channel and based on what audiences are already watching on YouTube. We've been testing a version of AI-powered tools in YouTube Studio with creators, and more than 70% of those surveyed said that it's helped them to.
yeah, your phone is always with you. So you are watching more with it, and you are, you know, you have the potential to create more with it, right? Like, because wherever you are, you can do that. And a computer requires, you know, wall outlets and, you know, a space to put it in and all the other crap that goes along with that. So the computer will never die. Right? It will just, the weight of where the money goes will be towards mobile applications.
Develop and test ideas for videos. There's going to be an assistive search for finding music for your videos, and they're also adding automatic dubbing with a company called Allow, which is going to be a feature where I can speak out an entire YouTube video in English. It will go and recreate and dub over that entire video in whatever language I want it to dub it over in without having to hire like a voiceover expert or something like that. YouTube's just going to have that dubbing built in, opening up us YouTube creators to be featured in front of potentially so much wider audiences. So something that I'm super excited about as a YouTube creator who's also in the AI space. YouTube's announcements this week were huge for me. And of course, Amazon, one of the companies that originally introduced a lot of us to AI with their Alexa products, well, they're improving Alexa.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the future home and the evolution of this idea of the smart home and everything else is that if you will have some kind of PC type thing that drives it all, but everything will become more of an access point rather than, you know, this is my computer. The computer will be like, I could definitely see the modem, router, and computer being one entity, right? And then you just plug it in and it lives in, you know, wherever it lives. It lives in the utility room. It lives in, you know, a closet. It lives behind a TV. It lives wherever it lives. And then your entire house is connected. And then, you know, your screens are going to be touch screens. You'll also have a remote, but you'll probably be able to, like, even right now, if you have a Roku, you can download a Roku app on your phone and control your TV from your phone. I would expect that type of integration. Like if I'm watching on TV, I will control my TV with my cell phone device. And it's also going to lead to that thing that I've always wanted is where as I go from room to room, you know, if I'm in the living room with the big TV, it'll automatically go to the big TV, right? If I walk away from that room, that TV turns off. It'll save power. There's a whole bunch of reasons that you might do it. Yeah, like you've seen it in commercials, right? Like where they would pinch on their phone and then throw it at the TV, and then boom, there it will be on the TV. Between like, GPS and other location aspects and full integration, I don't see any reason why you couldn't actually do something like that. And I would like that. You would also need to have ability to stop it from doing that, just in case you have a situation where like it's nighttime and everyone's sleeping. You don't want it to go on the big screen and be loud and wake people up. So, but it could do the thing where like it knows what time it is,
with better AI. So Microsoft had a press event this week, YouTube had a press event this week, Amazon had a press event this week, and Intel also had a press event this week, which we'll talk about next. But at Amazon's press event, Amazon announced that their new Alexa experience will be a more conversational experience. Somehow experiences that take into account body language as well as a person's eye contact and gestures. It's also going to give Alexa a bigger and more opinionated personality. So yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that maybe don't want Alexa to have a personality, but we'll see. They actually demoed the Alexa device and asked it, what's your favorite sports team? And Alexa responded with follow-up questions about the Seahawks stats and game times. The new generative AI model will also be able to adjust its tone and response to express things like affirmation, excitement, laughter, and surprise. Amazon also announced that they're bringing generative AI to their Fire TV. They said that Fire TV users will
I understand that with the Alexa, but at the same time, if you have a phone, if you have a cell phone, what's the difference? Right? Like,
will now be able to ask Alexa more nuanced and open-ended questions about TV shows and
that's
movies.
me, Mr.
Thanks
Not
to the new
Wrong.
generative AI
I might not be
experience,
right,
which allows
but
them
I'm
to
definitely
speak in a
not
more
wrong.
natural and conversational way. Users will also be able to ask Alexa to find content based on specific actors, directors, scenes, genres, or entitlements such as action movies with car chases, comedies for a rainy day inside, or animated movies that are free to me. And like I mentioned, Intel also had an event this week. At this conference, Intel demonstrated laptops that could generate a song in the style of Taylor Swift and answer questions in a conversational style, all while being disconnected from the internet. They're also working on a new chip called the Arrow Lake, which will come out next year. And although it's a CPU chip and not a GPU chip like what NVIDIA makes, they're basically building it to gain traction against NVIDIA. Intel also announced that it's building a new supercomputer that would be used by Stability AI. They're also working on a software called OpenVINO, which will run its own large language model similar to ChatGPT, and essentially talked about a whole bunch of different chips that they're working on, which are going to be getting better and better at running various AI tasks. This week, TikTok announced that creators can now label their AI-generated content, and they say it's not exactly optional. Any AI-generated content that contains realistic images, audio, or video must be labeled as such to help viewers contextualize the situation and prevent the potential spread of misleading content. So it sounds like you
yes, I can feel like this is similar to the whole GMO labeling thing. And yes, I can see where there is a certain kind of value in it in this moment, right? Like people are sketched out about AI misinformation, deepfakes, and to a certain extent, rightfully so, right? Like the problem hasn't been as prevalent as people seem to worry that it was going to be. But like we're in kind of uncharted territory. So I also do kind of feel that people are going to act in whatever way that they think is best. And then the people who use a particular platform thing will, register how they feel about it, right? Like, people have gotten real loud lately. Like, they got Unity to back off their shit, at least to an extent. Remember, we got Sonic the Hedgehog changed, right? Like, we got to remember this is like when we do make our voices heard, they react. We just got to be loud about it.
You basically tell it whether it's AI or not, but it's not optional. You really need to do that. But TikTok's also working on their own software that automatically detects artificial intelligence. It was also announced this week that Speechly is joining Roblox. Last week, we talked about Roblox generative game development tools that they're working on. Well, Speechly is a...
Like, that's exactly that thing for creation, like, of websites. But, like, I think you could do it even better. Like, where you could just tell it what you want the webpage to look like, and it will make it, rather than the other way where you're doing shit.
A voice generation tool, which will help creators add realistic human sounding or robotic or alien sounding voices directly into their game using generative AI. Also this week, a rather interesting announcement. After relaunching as a studio for creators, LimeWire, yes, that tool that everybody used to use to steal music off the internet, LimeWire, they're now an AI company, and they just acquired Blue Willow, which works very similar to Midjourney, but is using Stable Diffusion under the hood. I've done a...
Yeah, we did a whole thing. I think it was last week, Monday. It was like, it's back, baby. It was like, I felt dirty just going to the website like I was going to get, computer herpes just by going there. But it's wild.
Couple of videos about Blue Willow in the past, so check those out if you're not familiar with Blue Willow. I just found it fascinating that LimeWire is even still a company, that now they're an AI, and they're actually a company that has the means to acquire another company like Blue Willow. That to me was fascinating. Also this week, Leia Inc. announced a new update to their Leia converter. If you've watched my past videos about how to generate movies and 3D type stuff with AI, you've definitely seen me talk about Leia converter in the past. The new Leia Pix converter has an updated user interface, and it's a tool where you can upload a still image and add depth and make it look more 3D and animated. So for example, if I take this image that's supposed to depict Geralt from The Witcher and toss it right into here, you'll see that it'll turn it into like a 3D animation here, where you could see some like depth behind it. But we have a bunch of different styles here. We could do horizontal, where it sort of rocks back and forth, wide circles, regular circles, tall circles, vertical, and a perspective shift. You could change the length of the...
And you can still see, like, right when he's standing in front of, you can see it's a little fuzzy there. But again, like, this is a hell of an improvement over what I was seeing last month. And some of the 2D to 3D image generation. So I expect this to, like, improve. Again, next year's going to be wild. As corporatized as Christmas is these days, I am looking forward to seeing what people are offering for Christmas. It is going to be something.
The animation to real short, which makes it look really fast, or real long, which makes it look much more subtle and slow. We could change the amount of animation, less, more. You do get a little bit of distortion around some of these edges, but still a pretty cool effect. We could change the focus point to close or far, and it sort of changes where the pivot happens. We can add more or less edge distortion, which has a pretty big impact on how the effect looks. But depending on the style you're going for, something like that might look very cool for...
I don't know if any of you, there used to be a thing called, pivot, there used to be a thing called, and I don't know, they might still exist, but motion comics, they were like, they would do a comic book, but then there would be like layers. Like Cyclops would be standing here, then there's the background and maybe some shit going on in between, and it would, it would shift and then it would cut to the next panel. You're really close to being able to create your own, if not there. Like, if people are forgiving and willing to accept the artifacts that exist around a particular character and like that, you could make your own, motion comic right now, today. September 25th, 2023.
What you're shooting for. And then you have an advanced
It's
editor
wild.
down here where you can make all sorts of tweaks on various axes and amplitudes and phases and all sorts of cool stuff that you could play with to get your 3D animated image to look how you want it. Some cool new feature updates from Leapix. They also did start to add a more premium plan, but it looks like they're giving people credits to start with to play around with it before actually forcing people to pay and use it. And I like to wrap up lately with what's going on in the world of AI and healthcare, because like I've mentioned in the past, this is where I think we're going to see some of the most world-changing advancements come out of AI. This week it was announced that Mark Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla Chan are building an expensive new AI GPU cluster just for medical research. So the new computing system is supposed to give researchers...
It has to do, like, I feel you. Don't get me wrong, I feel you. But, like, there is a limited amount of compute in order to execute these things, and by making it with tokens and different things cost different amounts of tokens and like that, they are like creating a limiter so that their systems continue to work, right? So there should be a future in which we have a much better time, but like, remember, we're still in the way early days of all this stuff. Way early days. For those of you who are old enough, remember the 1995, 1997 internet? Like, everything was bunk, but we loved it because it was new and it was amazing. And I don't want that to get lost. Like, this is stuff... There's a bunch of issues with capitalism. There's a bunch of issues with compensation. There's a bunch of issues with a bunch of issues, right? I understand all that. Never think that I'm not aware. I get frustrated by how simple the solutions are, and people keep trying to cram their, market stuff onto stuff, while at the same time getting the benefits of not markets. You know what I mean? Like, it's just frustrating. Just remember that this is pretty goddamn amazing, right? Like, the things that are happening, not just, however you feel about AI art and AI, replacing different workers in different, fields and stuff like that. We are looking at every day some kind of new thing. We're getting closer to quantum computing. We're getting more and more medical, breakthroughs and new and interesting directions. We are getting just an absolutely amazing possibility. And that's my deal. Like, I'm hyper focused in on the possibility. Right? The better future. The what can happen. There's a lot of, like, suffering and pain and anger and all that other stuff, and it's real, and I'm not invalidating any of it. I can see the possibility of a future without that. And that's where I got to stay focused. There are plenty of people who tell you how terrible the world is. I'm just not that guy. Except when I am. But generally, I'm not that guy. And it's close. It's real close.
Access to generative AI so they can model healthy and diseased cells over time that can help them develop new ways to treat the disease. It's going to be made up of more than 1,000 GPUs, and they're going to be the top of the line NVIDIA H100 GPUs. Once this is completed, the new computing system is expected to be one of the biggest AI clusters used for nonprofit research. And jumping over to Google's DeepMind, DeepMind is using AI to pinpoint the causes of genetic diseases. Now, the new AI system that DeepMind is working on is called Alpha Missense, and it looks at a whole bunch of DNA variations and then tries to figure out which variations of DNA are most likely to cause diseases in humans. Now, it's not foolproof yet, but it's going to help speed up diagnosis on rare genetic diseases. Now, this was adapted from DeepMind's previous AI model called AlphaFold, which was a protein folding AI, but the tool is capable of making predictions based on 71 million DNA variations, which makes it easier and faster to get proper diagnoses. And again, this is still the very, very early state of this kind of technology. It's only going to get better from here. So pretty exciting, pretty huge week in the world of AI. I was so excited to be in the thick of it this week out in New York at the Microsoft event, talking with other AI creators that are just as excited and just as passionate about all this AI stuff as I am. I'm excited to make some new videos for you around some of the content I created from some of these trips that I've been going on. Keep an eye out for that stuff. The pace of AI really feels like it's getting exciting again. The hype seems like it's starting to come back around again. People are getting more and more into what these tools are going to be able to do, how they're going to make their lives easier, how they're going to solve health problems, how they're going to solve education problems, how they're going to take steps out of your daily workflow. There's just so much happening right now that I'm super excited about it. And I'm hoping the hype among the general public starts to ramp up again, because some of the stuff we're seeing is really going to improve a lot of people's lives. So I think more people should be paying attention. I'm here for it. I'm going to keep on breaking down the news, making tutorials, making fun videos, doing challenges, and just having fun with AI and tech and sharing it with you. If you want to see more videos like this and stay in the loop with all the latest news, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel. That'll make sure more of these types of videos show up in your feed. And if you haven't already, check out futuretools.io, where I curate all of the latest AI news on a daily basis, curate all of the coolest AI tools that I come across on a daily basis, and give you a single location where you can hunt down all of these various videos that I'm making. You can find it all over at futuretools.io. Don't forget to join the free newsletter as well. And thanks again for watching. And thanks once again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. I really, really appreciate the support, because you're allowing me to make more videos like this. And
Okay. That's going to be me. I'm going to save the craziest scientific discoveries. I got stuff I got to do. I appreciate you all. I think we're going to raid David. Nobody, you know how I like to raid into science, but nobody sciencey is on right now. So, and David's good, and David, I think, does a good balance of, like telling you how terrible the world is, but giving you a good time and like gives you some candy and some hopium and stuff like that. And generally just a solid dude. Make sure you're here 5 o'clock Wednesday, 5 o'clock Eastern on the dot. Be in the Discord, follow when the go live, or just set a timer, because the conversation will be interesting. And I'm going to reach out to other people, try to get some more conversations going on, because, I missed that as well. It's been a minute. So, drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot. Choggy loves you. So do I. Be great.